and made available to the public. Speaking of reports, the controller is in charge of publishing a detailed account of Los Angeles government spending on a monthly and yearly basis. These are submitted to the California State Controller and the federal government for review. Also, the controller must estimate the city's revenue and forward this estimate to the mayor, who uses it to determine the size of the city's budget. And with such a long list of responsibilities, it's hard to imagine the Office of Controller could have any more, but he or she must also act as controller for 6 major government agencies, including the Los Angeles Coliseum and the Los Angeles Convention Center. Quite a tall order indeed. Los Angeles knows how to keep a high profile. It's one of the most recognized cities in the world and rakes in $20 billion a year from tourism. But when it comes to the Los Angeles city government, who's at the center of public interest? Well, in this segment, we take a look at the most high-profile office in Los Angeles, the mayor. The mayor just may be the most famous citywide office, but few people know exactly what the mayor does. Well, the mayor is to the city as is the U.S. president to the country. The mayor serves a 4-year term with a maximum of 2 terms and is considered the executive officer of the city. Now, as the executive officer, the mayor can submit proposals to the city council and veto ordinances passed by the city council. Contrary to what you may believe, the mayor cannot pass his ordinances. But the power to veto means that his or her say goes a long way in determining the direction that Los Angeles takes. The mayor is also responsible for directing city affairs. This can include anything from greeting foreign dignitaries to ensuring various departments in the city's government work together. Sometimes the mayor even reviews complaints filed against city employees. If it's determined that a city official has acted in an unacceptable manner, the mayor has the power to remove that individual. This is just one way in which the mayor acts to enforce the city's ordinances. Well, considering what you just heard, it may surprise you to learn that the mayor's most important duty has nothing to do with ordinances or offices. In fact, the mayor's most important duty is drafting the city's budget each year and submitting it to the city council. The city council can then alter the budget and send it back to the mayor, where it's either approved or vetoed and altered further. City council rarely passes a budget unaltered, but the mayor's initial submission is always a great indicator of what the final budget will look like. Finally, no mention of the mayor's explicit duties can fully describe the importance of the office. The mayor has great symbolic power. Since his or her election is usually the most visible, the election of a mayor is often seen as a vote of confidence for the winning candidate's political platform. Because of this, the words and vision of a mayoral candidate can have a profound effect on the city's direction. Well, this concludes our special edition, Local Civics 101. We hope this glimpse into the workings and structure of your local government can help you become more empowered and engaged in the betterment of your neighborhood and local community. On behalf of all of us here at LA City View Channel 35, I'm Jack Popejoy. We'll see you again in a regular edition of Council Week in Review. Thank you for watching.
It seemed like another beautiful day in the city of angels.
Well, what time's your class, honey?
Oh, I have to meet them in about 15 minutes.
How are they doing? Do you think they'll be ready for the race you were telling me about?
Well, they may not all finish, but they'll try.
Oh, I've got that math test today, Mom. I have to hurry so I can get in a little more setting before class.
Oh, that's right. You better run along. Oh, honey, do you mind taking out the trash before you go?
Sure thing. I'm right on top of it. Oh, good luck on the test, Dee Dee.
I told you not to call me that anymore, Dad. My name's Diana.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Bye, Dad.
Bye. But something was wrong.
great $55 shirt and I can't. You won't believe this. I don't want to hear about your problems. I had trouble getting in as well. Hey, a lot of expensive shirt. I'll never replace you. Oh boy. You know what? I gotta get it. Just yeah. You two. I'll see you later.
You're doing really well, even though it's so hot out here today. Watch those branches, guys. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, go ahead and watch that one. Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's disgusting.
I'm going home.
Richard, get back in here. The toilet's not out.
LA becomes living hell.
Daddy! Daddy!
It's a critical time for Los Angeles because due to a long-standing lack of resources, our once healthy infrastructure is on the decline. Los Angeles is the second largest city in America. We have some of the most massive infrastructure systems in the world, and the Department of Public Works is responsible for a huge percentage of them.
Branches, guys.
We sweep over 600,000 curb miles a year. We remove illegally dumped trash and debris from over 5,000 locations every year. We maintain over 290 acres of median islands, and the city's urban forest, almost 700,000 trees. We also prune 90,000 trees a year.
Of course, we also fix and maintain city streets.
You know, I called 311, and street services took care of it. The city collects trash, recyclables, and yard trimmings from 720,000 households a week. We don't just collect refuse, recyclables, and yard waste. We're also responsible for maintaining and repairing 6,500 miles of sewer and storm drains and collecting and treating wastewater.
I just made a call and they picked it up.
We get calls about recycling tires, dead animals in the street, industrial waste handling, picking up of large bulky items. You name it.
The Department of Public Works has a vision for the future and extraordinarily committed city personnel who are anxious to pursue this vision.
We've prepared designs and specifications and estimates for all major public works improvement projects. We're also responsible for building streets, sewers, and storm drains,
as well as construction of public buildings and hundreds of public facilities.
How does the Department of Public Works do it all?
We administer contracts and permits for the city's construction and improvement projects.
The Bureau of Contract Administration also inspects all work on a daily basis constructed on public property to ensure that it meets the highest quality standards and is completed on schedule.
All of the bureaus of the Department of Public Works collaborate to produce excellent results.
only problem is that in Los Angeles lately, we've only had enough funding for the most immediate and urgent needs.
Many of LA's infrastructures are very old. We have a lot to do in order to maintain and improve them over the next 10 years.
Unfortunately, infrastructure spending in California has been on the decline.
In 1960, 20% of statewide spending was on developing and maintaining public infrastructure. By the year 2000, it was down to 3%.
Public Works benefits everyone, including those services that we take for granted.
But the budget for the next 10 years is not enough to cover the city's needs. If Los Angeles doesn't increase spending for the necessary maintenance and improvements, its infrastructure will continue to deteriorate.
And we'll have to do without improvements for the future, such as the Department of Public Works, 95 new projects to reduce traffic congestion.
How can they get the money they need to maintain and improve our infrastructure?
When money proposals are passed in the city, they allocate funding for various public works projects.
I guess my vote on bonds really can make a difference.
I asked for another light on the street, and here it is.
The city streetlight system has over 240,000 lights, covering 5,000 of LA's 7,000 miles of streets. Public Works designs and executes public projects such as sidewalks, bridges, wastewater treatment facilities, and libraries.
We're hampered only by the limitations in our budget.
We take care of 73,000 miles of public streets and alleys.
We maintain over 1,200 miles of storm drains. We have a staff of over 5,500 dedicated employees.
As Los Angeles keeps pace with the needs of its people, the Board of Public Works continues its leadership tradition.
After more than 90 years of service, we're still here to serve the city of LA.
City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the City Council meeting for Friday, October 16th, 2009. We're here in the John Ferraro Council Chamber, room 340 of City Hall, where we meet every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Welcome those who are with us today in our council chambers, as well as those viewing us on Channel 35, which broadcasts us live each meeting on the city's cable system and rebroadcasts us each evening as well. We're also available online at lacity.org. If you click on the left side of the links at our homepage, there are direct links to the internet live streaming webcast of these meetings, as well as archived footage of all of our past council meetings for your convenience. Linked to those, to that footage is our agendas, which are also available online or here in person. Those are made available 72 hours in advance or 24 hours in advance for our special meetings. We also have information at lacity.org on city departments and city services, and a wealth of information to improve the quality of your life here in Los Angeles. I want to thank those council members who are here on time. Council rules do say that council members should be here at the beginning of the hour in their seats. That's council members Labange, Perry, Reyes, and Zion. Besides Mr. Smith, who is excused today, the other council members are now late. If they will please join us. Council members Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Huizar, Koretz, Parks, Rosendahl, and Wesson, if you'll please come down as soon as possible. The agendas that I mentioned that are available in the back or online do have all the items that we will be going through today, including our presentations, which each Friday we do to members of the public for notable occasions, dates, groups, and accomplishments here in the City of Angels. We also have items on the agenda that we will be voting on. Those are split into items that have had public hearings in committee and those that haven't. If they've already had a public hearing in committee, if you'd like to fill out a speaker card to be heard on those, please give that to the Sergeant-at-Arms, but that will require a council member to reopen the hearing. For items that have not yet had their public hearing, however, if you fill out a card in the back, we will be able to hear that card today no matter what. That will automatically trigger a hearing on that item. Lastly, we also have general public comment, which is when members of the public can speak to the council on items that are not on today's agenda, but nevertheless under our jurisdiction. 2 minutes per speaker there up at the podium. Or if you live closer to Van Nuys or San Pedro, for your convenience, we've opened up studios there where you can testify remotely, and we're able to watch you and see you and listen to you here in council chambers as well as on Channel 35. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Assistant President Pro Tem, Mr. Zion, and we'll begin our presentations while we await Council Members Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Huizar, Koretz, Parks, Rosendahl, and Wesson.
Thank you, sir. You go first. Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Our first presentation will be from our Council President, Councilmember Garcetti.
We got room for everybody. Yes, you too. Yes, he is. He's on back there. He's doing great. He's doing great. He's enjoying his new career. Of course I will. I always do. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm joined by some of our most illustrious activists in the city of Los Angeles, who we come together with every year. These are folks who are literally on the front lines of preventing and dealing with violence that unfortunately still afflicts our community and too many of our residents here in Los Angeles. You see, October is, around here, but also throughout the country, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It is a time when we shine the light on one of the most horrific forms of violence that exists in our society, the kind that happens to people inside their own homes. I don't think there is a single person in this room whose family hasn't been touched by domestic violence. We have family and friends, sometimes brothers, sisters, parents, grandparents, nieces, nephews, cousins, classmates, co-workers, people who we know who have been the survivors of domestic violence, people who have lived as witnesses to domestic violence, and those who are struggling to bring their lives together despite the darkness of domestic violence that hangs over them. Each year at this time, we have an extraordinary group of Angelinos that comes together, not just now, but throughout the year, to work to eradicate domestic violence. The City of Los Angeles' Domestic Violence Task Force brings us together through events that help raise awareness of this problem that plagues our communities. And we know that prevention and intervention are the only way to end the cycle of violence. And each one of us has a role to play. When we witness violence, when we hear the cues that will lead to a violent episode, or to attitudes that embrace or accept violence, we all can make people aware of the problem, and we can take actions to ensure that acts of violence do not occur. We can help people get out of dangerous situations. We can heal our communities and neighborhoods. We can repair the city. The unfortunate reality of this year, though, when we come together, is quite a sad one, because the current economic crisis has affected many organizations that provide shelter and services to domestic violence victims. You see, most years we have a theme, and this year we have the theme of service, but it is unfortunately not the sort of theme that we've been able to do sometimes in past years because of these budget cuts. Earlier this year, Governor Schwarzenegger cut more than $15 million in funding for domestic violence programs, forcing too many shelters to pack up and close. In the midst of the worst economic downturn that we've experienced since the Great Depression, when sometimes we see these acts of violence come to the forefront even more because of the strains economically in families, it seems like the absolute wrong thing and the wrong priority for the state to have done. The good news is Senator Leland Yee just recently introduced something to restore funding to all these domestic violence shelters, and that was passed, and we urge the governor to sign that. He has the opportunity to make right what went wrong, and we encourage the governor very vociferously, I'm sure you'll hear from others, to do that now, so that not one person does not have the opportunity to be able to escape from a domestic violence situation. Organizations everywhere are having to do more with less, but we know that the impact of closing these shelters can be devastating. A California Now board member who works with the domestic violence survivors shared a story of a client who, after years of being a punching bag for her husband, went to seek help at a domestic violence shelter here in LA. This is what's happening today. When she arrived, she found that the shelter had closed due to lack of funding. That night, she went home and she shot her husband. She was convicted of second-degree murder, but if the shelter had been open, her story might have been different, and the cycle of violence may have been ended. This year, amidst the tough economy, we're asking people who care about ending domestic violence to help by calling the city's Domestic Violence Task Force Coordinator, Nadine Shimoji, at 213-744-9311. You can get involved. We can use your volunteer help, and we want you to be involved to help us eradicate domestic violence. And with that, we'd like to cue, if we can get an assist from our great audio-visual team, this year's domestic violence public service announcement. Please, if you'll roll it.
He didn't really mean it. He said he was sorry.
How many times are you going to accept his apologies? He's hit you before.
He's a creep. Just the way he looks at you sometimes scares me. He promised he'd never do it again. I've got nowhere to go.
I'm afraid for you. You need to get help before it's too late.
National Domestic Violence Hotline. Are you in a safe place to talk right now?
Thank you. The reality of the situation is too many people are not in safe places, but they can get help. And somebody who is listening right now, maybe somebody in this room, maybe somebody on Channel 35, maybe somebody we're going to talk to later today, this afternoon, you can be the messenger to let them know that there is hope and that there is help. That hotline is available. And for those who want to contribute and participate, there is help here too in Los Angeles. Our city's Domestic Violence Task Force, which I'm the liaison for the City Council on it, is led by an indomitable woman. There are men and women on this task force who are all warriors in terms of trying to make sure that we let no geographical part of the city go untouched by the movement to end domestic violence, and that nobody does not hear the messages that we have. And I'd like to ask Carol Tantau to come forward, who leads the Domestic Violence Task Force, somebody who has just been an incredible advocate for all of us. Please give her a round of applause, and let's hear from Carol.
Most of you know that the task force has customarily hosted a Domestic Violence Awareness Month event on the forecourt of City Hall, complete with a resource fair, a press conference, a DV handbook, and of course, speeches. That's just not happening this year. In light of financial hardships, we've scaled back. The task force is composed of volunteers appointed by each council member to ensure that domestic violence issues in Los Angeles are being addressed. The PSA that you just saw was a collaborative effort of the task force and Channel 35. It was filmed entirely in City Hall. It was produced by Robert Manciero and Debbie Biederman, one of our executive board members. Our theme this year is how domestic violence victims are being impacted by the financial crisis. The good news is the legislature has passed the bill to partially restore shelter funding, wiped out by the governor's line item veto in May. The bad news is the state of California has lost 6 domestic violence shelters in the last 5 months, and the governor has not yet signed the new bill. 3 of these shelters will never be able to open again, in spite of any funding that might be restored. What does that mean to a victim of domestic violence? We know that this is a crime that is hugely underreported, so we cannot give you statistics. President Garcetti already spoke about the woman who ended up murdering her husband because she was unable to access services. Another woman fled the state with her children because she was unable to find legal assistance and was subsequently jailed for child stealing by her abusive husband. A victim with children who didn't realize that she was eligible for government benefits ended up on the streets, living in her car. In 2005, the task force established the Marjorie Browdy Award for innovative collaborative efforts addressing the reduction and eradication of domestic violence in the city of Los Angeles. This year, the award is going to the hundreds of volunteers who are so essential to our cause. We've distributed a booklet to council members that talks about the incredible contribution these people make to our cause and some heartfelt thanks from agencies who simply couldn't survive without their help. People interested in volunteering should contact an agency in their neighborhood. Volunteers working directly with clients must go through a 40-hour training mandated by the state of California. I'm delighted to report that my agency's current volunteer training is the largest class we've had in several years, and happen to include a couple of City Hall employees, I might add. Which brings me full circle to the PSA you just watched. Claire Gilmore, a volunteer with my agency, spent quite some time researching existing PSAs about domestic violence, enabling Robert and Debbie and I to screen them when developing a script for our PSA. Most of these were both dramatic and memorable, and many were quite frightening. However, we know that many victims of domestic violence have not yet identified as victims. They are isolated and don't realize that they don't have to have broken bones and a hideously bruised face. We decided to show a victim just what calling a hotline for help would look like, in the hopes that they would make the connection. This is a wonderful example of the kinds of contributions that a volunteer can bring to our table. Another area of volunteer commitment is our DART teams that work with LAPD. Commander Gannon is here with me today to recognize the officers who work with these teams and help make our city safer for the victims of domestic violence.
And LAPD is always at the front lines of the domestic violence struggle. We have the number one service calls traditionally has been for domestic violence calls, and if we can do things to stop that, that means our police officers can be doing other things to keep us safe, but every time they have to come back to that same house over and over, that same apartment over and over, it means resources, it means lives shattered. But we want to thank Patrick Gannon and have him come forward to say some things on behalf of our department. Commander Gannon.
Thank you very much. As part of my responsibilities with the police department, I'm the domestic violence coordinator. But with that, in all honesty, I do very little in response to domestic violence. The people that do the work are sitting here and standing behind me. These are the real heroes. These are the ones that do the work each and every day. And I'm incredibly proud to stand up here and to represent them today. Year to date, the Los Angeles Police Department has responded to 38,000, that number is staggering, 38,000 calls for service that in some way or another may or may not involve domestic violence. They are coded that way in the initial call that's received by the operator. That's a 4% increase over last year's numbers. Part of that I worry about in any type of increase in those types of calls, but I'm also optimistic in the sense that more people are asking for help, more people are reaching out. The services that are delivered and the services that are required are as needed today as they were at any part of our history. I really want to thank the city's domestic Violence Task Force and the tireless work that they do each and every day. The incredible efforts that are put together by domestic violence advocates, volunteers, our officers, and detectives, I think, goes a long way in ensuring our domestic violence victims remain safe. And then lastly, I want to thank the city. I want to thank the mayor's office. I'd like to thank the city attorney's office, which plays a huge role in ensuring that that helps us do our jobs correctly. And I'd like to thank the council for providing us with the funds necessary to keep this important work going. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. I know we have a long day. We're going to be giving the awardees their awards upstairs in the fourth floor media room, and I hope every council member today will pick up the phone or write a letter to the governor, and let's keep that pressure going. And everybody who's listening, let's get that signed to restore some of that and to save some lives today. And I know there's some other
Mr. LaBonge.
Want to talk.
Rise and thank everybody. I have a habit of hiking in Griff Park every morning, and it was a beautiful sunrise this morning. And you look out above the city, and you think of all the people who are living in variety of challenges. And then on top of that variety of challenges, you have harm one another through a domestic violence for all communities. So I just thank for each and every one of you for this evolution, because this is basically the last, how many years, Mr. Garcetti? The last 15 years of really the word, because I remember it's the black and whites. There's no excuse for domestic abuse on the black and black and whites on bumper stickers on there. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for your extra involvement in this effort, for making people aware of this and also meeting the challenge to change lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. Ms. Hahn.
I wanted to rise and thank you for, even in these tough budget times, making sure that we are making people aware of the fact that domestic violence is still very real, and it is happening, every single day. And I think, Eric, what you said just at the end of that PSA, if there's anybody today who's watching Channel 5, maybe even sitting in this chambers, take the time to call the hotline, because women, unfortunately, are still many, many times are victims of this kind of abuse, harassment, bullying, oppressive behavior by a man in their life. And what we're doing today is important. Give a shout out to my Rainbow Shelter in the Harbor area that I know just does good work day in and day out, giving women a safe place to come until they can get back on their feet. But really, thank you for bringing this awareness to everyone. We are on the side of women everywhere, and we want them to know that there is help available if they need it. Please make that call today. You will be saving yourself. You will be saving your children. And by the way, women have a lot of other people looking at them, up to them, from their children to their sisters to friends around them. And this is a courageous act that you can do to prove to everyone looking at you that you indeed have the courage to change the circumstances in your life. And that could go to the next generation of young girls to know that there's also will be help for them someday. And maybe one day we won't be having this Domestic Violence Awareness Day. Wouldn't that be a great day in LA?
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to you for the fine work, domestic violence advocates. Mr. Ed Reyes, our next speaker. Presentation from Mr. Ed Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues,
It's with great pride and honor that I stand here today to share with all Angelinos the declaration of October 20th, 2009, and as El Día del Guatemalteco, Guatemalan Day. Let's give a round of applause, folks. We have with us today two very important guests. Mr. Mario Cha, Governor of the state of Totonicapán in Guatemala, and Mr. Pablo Cesar Garcia Sainz, Consul General of Guatemala. The Guatemalan community has waited for a long time for a day in which we can all celebrate the contributions and value their culture. This is the first time that a day has been declared Día del Guatemalteco in the country. October 20th marks a very important date for Guatemalans. It signifies their long struggle for freedom and justice. It also honors the heroic example of the King Quiche Ticún Unam. This is going back a few years, 1499 to 1524, who fought against the Spaniards in the Battle of del Pinal and was killed by the sword of Pedro de Alvarado. Approximately 700,000 Guatemalans reside in the county of Los Angeles. To put that in perspective, that's about 2 districts and a half in the city of Los Angeles. The largest concentration happens to reside in the district that I represent. Theirs is one of the most culturally diverse communities. The presentation of their Mayan heritage and customs is to be commended. I want to thank Agua, Zonas Urbanas, and Maya Vision for allowing me to be part of this very important and historic occasion. I would like to ask our guests to share a few words with us. I do believe they might be sharing it in English, in Spanish, and in their native language, so that we can understand the great diversity in this city. Colleagues, after the riots and after the earthquakes, when we had apartments that had fallen apart, where families were living out in the street because the buildings had been red tagged, I had to take a Spanish interpreter to interpret some of the native languages that fill these apartments. The presence of the Guatemaltecos, Guatemalans here is a very real one. It's a valuable one. It's something we need to celebrate. So with that, I'd like to call up our honored guest, our Gobernador Mario Cha. Por favor. Bienvenido, señor. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. ¿Tomamos un tiempo?
Bien. En nombre del... Okay. En nombre del pueblo de Guatemala y particularmente de los pueblos indígenas,
in the name of the inhabitants of Guatemala and especially of the native inhabitants,
que fuimos profundamente afectados por una guerra de 36 años que
we were
padeció
deeply
nuestro país.
affected for a war that lasted 36 years.
La ola de inmigrantes de guatemaltecos se intensificó con esta guerra.
The wave of immigrants, yes, got bigger with that war.
Y hoy es motivo de profunda satisfacción y de alegría para nosotros
Today we feel great satisfaction and happiness
que las autoridades y el liderazgo de la ciudad de Los Ángeles
that the authority and leadership of the city of Los Angeles
reconozcan el carácter multicultural, multiétnico y multilingüe de la ciudad.
recognize the multicultural, multilinguistic, and multi-inhabitants in the city.
De esa cuenta queremos patentizar nuestro profundo agradecimiento a las autoridades y líderes de esta ciudad.
We really appreciate and we are deeply thankful with the authorities of the city.
En este acto de justicia de reconocer que habemos guatemaltecos viviendo en la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
In this action of justice in which you recognize that there are Guatemalans living in the city of Los Angeles.
aportando con nuestro trabajo al engrandecimiento de esta ciudad y de este estado.
We contribute with our work to this city and this state.
Muchas gracias a todos y todas por darnos la oportunidad de expresarnos en este recinto.
I thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to express ourselves in this hall.
Que Dios guíe a todos ustedes para tomar la mejor decisión para hacer de la ciudad de Los Ángeles la mejor ciudad del mundo.
I wish that God could guide all of you to make this city the best city.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Pablo Cesar Garcia Sáenz, Consul General of Guatemala.
Good morning. This day is one day for remember that all the people Guatemalan in Los Angeles, because they're hard working men and women that day by day they look for a better living. I hope that with a better friendship can come between Guatemala and Los Angeles. Better than and really it. Thank you for the decision. Thank you for this day, because it's appreciated for that all the Guatemalan people living in Los Angeles. Thank you so much.
Nim Sakarik Kamalpe Winak Nim Kekle Nim Sakarik Church Ohunk Konochel Alak Maltiosh Jewehun Akabil Spanri Nim Antahik Chi Los Angeles, California Maltiosh Chikieri Nimak Kekle Chikiawe Hunim Kichkeri Shamaltiosh Jewehun Kichke Wenim Antahik Maltiosh Chechalak Winak Rek Amalpe Maltiosh Chechalak.
Thank you. Sí, mi nombre es Néstor Villatoro, presidente de la Asociación Guatemalteca Americana Agua. Muy buenos días, personalidades distinguidos, líderes de la comunidad guatemalteca y centroamericana.
Good morning
Señor,
to the leaders of the Central American community and the Guatemaltecan community.
Señores concejales de Los Ángeles,
Mr. Councilman of Los Angeles,
señor concejal del Distrito Primero, Ed Reyes,
and Mr. Council Member Ed Reyes from the 1st District,
gobernador de Totonicapán, Mario Chá,
Mario Shah, the governor of Totonicapán,
señor cónsul de Guatemala, Pablo García Sáenz.
Pablo García Sáenz, Consul of Guatemala.
Hoy estamos haciendo historia en la
Today we are
ciudad de Los
making
Ángeles,
history in the city of Los Angeles.
historia para toda la comunidad guatemalteca,
History for all the Guatemaltecan community.
que somos ya casi más de 700,000 que vivimos en Los Ángeles
We're almost more than 700,000 that live in Los Angeles,
y más de 1,500,000 en toda la nación de Estados Unidos,
and more than 1.5 million in all the United States.
que aportamos con nuestro esfuerzo y trabajo a la economía y al bienestar de este país,
We contribute with our work to the economy of this country,
y muy especialmente en las ciudades más grandes, en esta ciudad más grande como es la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
especially in the largest cities that is like this city of Los Angeles.
Hoy, 20 de octubre del 2009, hace 65 años exactos, en nuestra querida Guatemala se estaba haciendo historia.
Today, October 20th, 2009, 65 years ago, we were making history in our city of Guatemala.
Historia para todo el pueblo guatemalteco que marcó el escenario político hasta el presente.
History of all the Guatemaltecan people that mark history.
Miles de estudiantes, maestros, trabajadores, familias trabajadoras, campesinos, indígenas, militares y jóvenes y todo el pueblo de Guatemala salió a las calles para demandar por justicia y democracia.
Thousands of people and the citizens of Guatemala, they all got out into the street to just claim for justice.
demandando la renuncia del general Jorge Ubico Castañeda porque ya estaban cansados de tanta explotación y las dictaduras militares que estaban gobernando Guatemala desde 1871.
They were tired of the exploitation and the military government that were exploiting the country since the 1800s.
Hoy, 20 de octubre del 2009, estamos nuevamente haciendo historia en la ciudad de Los Ángeles, fundando nuestro día, el Día del Guatemalteco.
Today, October 20, 2009, we are making history again with this day, the Day of the Guatemaltecan.
Honramos a nuestro gran mártir y héroe nacional, Tecún Umán.
Tecún Umán, we just honor him.
Porque él nos dejó ese ejemplo heroico de lucha para nuestra patria Guatemala.
He left us that heroic sample of fight for our Guatemalan people.
En la cual murió luchando contra los españoles en la batalla del Pinal.
In which, at the Pinan battle, he died fighting with the Spaniards.
Y fue asesinado por la espada de Pedro de Alvarado.
He was killed by Pedro de Alvarado.
Por lo cual ahora es nuestro gran héroe nacional.
Now he's our national hero.
Nuestro Día del Guatemalteco nos fortalece para que toda nuestra cultura guatemalteca se pueda preservar y pasar a futuras generaciones.
This day, the Guatemalan Day, gives us strength for all the future generations to be strong.
Las familias guatemaltecas, la comunidad guatemalteca y las generaciones que vienen nos comprometemos para seguir manteniendo las dos culturas, la cultura guatemalteca y la cultura americana.
The Guatemalan community will be sure to continue showing that we are going to continue with the Guatemalan culture and the American culture together.
Mujeres y hombres guatemaltecos americanos, orgullosos sintámonos de participar y contribuir en la integración social, educacional, profesional y política de esta nación.
We are very proud to contribute to this nation.
Le damos gracias a nuestros líderes locales,
We thank our local leaders,
como lo es nuestro alcalde de Los Ángeles, Antonio Villaraigosa,
our mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa,
a nuestro concejal Ed Reyes,
our council member, Ed Reyes,
a nuestro cónsul de Guatemala, Pablo García Sáenz,
our consul of Guatemala, Pablo García Sáenz,
a todos los líderes y organizaciones guatemaltecas,
all the leaders and Guatemaltecan organizations,
centroamericanos y latinoamericanos,
Central Americans and Latin Americans,
a los miles de voluntarios y a las organizaciones,
and the organizations.
Asociación Guatemalteca Americana Agua,
Asociación Guatemalteca Agua,
Mayavisión y zonas urbanas por aportar y ayudar a la fundación histórica de nuestro gran Día del Guatemalteco en la ciudad de Los
and
Ángeles.
zonas urbanas for contributing to this great day of the Guatemalan in the city of Los Angeles.
Sin el esfuerzo colectivo no se hubiera podido fundar nuestro gran día, el Día de Guatemalteco.
With the help of everybody, we wouldn't be able to have this great day, the Day of the Guatemaltecan.
Que viva el Día del Guatemalteco, que viva el 20 de octubre, que viva Guatemala. Gracias.
Okay. Go ahead. Just a few words, okay?
Morning. Can I have your attention for one moment, please? You know that there is actually more shelters for animals than there is for domestic violence. I just wanted to tell you that. And last night I was sitting in my room writing a speech, and I realized that as an activist, I speak with the biggest muscle in my body, which is my heart. So first of all, I'd like to thank all the councilmen that I have done great work with and the great things that you guys do. And I'd like to just thank you for recognizing this day, Mr. Ed Reyes, Silvia Beltran, Mr. West, and all the councilmen and chambers, because it means a lot to us, you know. It means a lot to us. We contribute a lot. And I think it's time that we celebrate and we let our youth know their culture and embrace it and feel proud of it. Because a lot of our youth get lost not knowing who they are in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you. I will make it brief, and that'll be all.
Thank you for those words. I can't agree with you anymore. Many of us who are, I include myself, sons of immigrants, when we learn what our parents go through in adjusting this society, and to not have a sense of our own history because it's not taught in our schools. When you have a 50% dropout rate in this city, the abandonment of our youth starts with the ignorance of their past. Having El Dia de Guacamanteco truly is a real message to our young people to say, be proud of who you are, be proud of the native language of your grandparents, be proud of the struggle of your parents, because it's a very, very big sacrifice. El Día de Guacamanteco, felicidades al liderazgo de Guatemala. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Congratulations. Our next presentation, CD9, Councilmember Perry.
Is that everybody? Everybody? Okay. This is your. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Today, I am very proud to recognize the AIDS Research Alliance for their 20 years of dedication to tackling AIDS on many fronts, by improving the health of people with HIV and AIDS, and by striving to develop vaccines that prevent further spread of HIV, and by searching for a cure for AIDS. Please help me welcome Carolyn Carlberg, Chief Executive Officer, Carrie Stevens, Board President, John Wong, Member of the Board of Directors, Vincent M. Cummings, Development Director, Art McDermott, VP of Development, Dr. Stephen Brown, Medical Director, Lisa Vassi, CAO, Craig Watson, Tala Mohebi, and Sally Shin. 20 years ago, a group of Southern California physicians, philanthropists, and community activists founded AIDS Research Alliance to create a new way to conduct medical research in the United States. They transformed a grassroots alliance into our nation's only not-for-profit, community-based AIDS research organization, pioneering new treatment strategies at the forefront of HIV science. The ARA has conducted over 100 clinical and preclinical studies ranging from therapies that employ a holistic approach to HIV care to the first in-human HIV vaccine trial in this way. AIDS Research Alliance has fast-tracked to market about 1/2 of all existing anti-HIV drugs. ARA has conducted groundbreaking research on a fraction of research budgets of most pharmaceutical companies and research universities. And AIDS Research Alliance's Department of Community Education and Outreach has developed programs to increase knowledge of and access to clinical trials, especially among populations who are historically underrepresented in research and disproportionately impacted by HIV/AIDS. This work is done within a community-based health literacy model that expands people's ability to understand and act upon health information. It increases patient-doctor communications, reduces risky behaviors, and offers meaningful options to increase health outcomes. There will be no end to the epidemic without medical research. The rapid translation of research findings into practical therapies has helped people with HIV and AIDS live longer and healthier lives. Through research, HIV infection is no longer the death sentence that it once was. And so I'd like to invite the Alliance's CEO, Carolyn Carlberg, and Board President, Carrie Stevens, to say a few words, and let's please welcome them.
Good morning, council members. My name is Kerry Stevens. I'm chairman of the Board of AIDS Research Alliance. I'd like to thank the council for this recognition this morning. In particular, I'd like to thank Councilwoman Perry, whose district we've recently been relocated to, for this wonderful honor. This is a big week for AIDS Research Alliance. Last night we had the pleasure of celebrating our 20th anniversary gala at the Intercontinental Hotel in Century City. It was a wonderful celebration, and that celebration last night, in conjunction with this morning's recognition, really does give us hope that the 20 years of hard work that we've been at, when we will continue to do, will continue to pay off for those living with HIV/AIDS. So thank you on behalf of my board colleagues. Thank you very much.
I'm Carolyn Carlberg, Chief Executive Officer of AIDS Research Alliance, and I also want to thank Councilmember Perry for making this occasion possible for us. She visited our offices approximately a month or so ago, and we were able to give her a tour of our clinic and our administrative offices, and she stayed for a while, and we had a discussion about our work, and so we were very grateful for her time and her interest in what we're trying to do at AIDS Research Alliance. For 14 years, we were located on San Vicente Boulevard in the city of West Hollywood. We moved to downtown Los Angeles at 14th and Grand this past January, where we occupy a 10,000 square foot state-of-the-art clinic facility and administrative office space. We are right across the street from the California Hospital Medical Center, an ideal location for the work that we're doing. The relocation from West Hollywood represents a rather significant transition for our organization. San Vicente and West Hollywood represented the original ground zero for our disease, which is AIDS. Our current location at 14th and Grand represents the new ground zero for our disease. We have actually moved closer, right to the center of the communities most at risk of HIV and AIDS, the African American and Latino communities. We expect to be there for a while. We expect to continue our work and to grow. We expect to continue our affiliations with the work that we do with UCLA. I might add in that regard that we have just become a member of a federal vaccine trials network with UCLA, the third on the West Coast, the second in the state of California. And so once again, I want to thank you for having us here today and for this recognition. And I also wanted to say thank you to former Assemblyman, now City Councilman Paul Koretz, who is a friend of AIDS Research Alliance and was a speaker at an event for us here at City Hall 3 years ago. So thank you one and all, and I hope we'll have the opportunity going forward to tell you more about the work that we're doing.
Thank you very much. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that AIDS Research Alliance is an institution with a rich history of service to the city of Los Angeles, and I am proud to honor them today, and we're going to go in the back and present a resolution to them. Thank you very much.
Mr. Labange?
No, thank you, Ms. Perry, for bringing in some very, very special people. AIDS is a constant fight, and I remember as we reminisce at time, people who worked in this building who are no longer here because they didn't survive the challenges of this deadly disease. Awareness and research is so key, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for commitment. I'm standing here with Michael Lear, who's a classmate at John Marshall High, and sometimes we brag about our footballer, Mike Haynes, but today we brag about David Ho, Dr. David Ho, who you may all know. He was in our class at John Marshall and it made such a great contribution to research. It's amazing how people with a focus try to find a way to fight dreaded disease. So I thank you, each and every one. Thank you, Ms. Perry, for recognizing these very special people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Thank you, Ms. Perry. Congratulations. Our next presentation, Mr. Labange.
We're going to get you a whole package. He's got more time.
I want to save the best for last. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to honor someone who's very, very, very special to us. Would you like to have your wife join us as well? Stan Horowitz from the Bureau of Street Lighting, retiring after 44 years of dedicated service to the city of Los Angeles. Stan started his career part-time in the early 60s when John Kennedy was president, believe it or not, departed in 63 and then returned in 66 as a civil engineering assistant in the Public Works Department. But he was our top person in street lighting for so many years, especially working with our community organizations and our neighborhood organizations to find ways to light the streets of Los Angeles. He provided new and improved street lighting throughout the city and then also joined in the charge to restore historic lighting into areas and bring back the renaissance of the beautiful street lights that were part of the City Beautiful movement in the 20s that now is really part of our menu when we provide street lighting. Stan has resided within the city of Los Angeles for all his life, almost, and he has always been actively involved with the constituencies in the way, and what's so special about Stan, if I could, and we wish all our employees could live in Los Angeles, but him living in Los Angeles, he was able to feel the pulse in such a way that he was better served in his job. He has a strong commitment to public service reflected in receiving numerous citations and awards, and is well known for being able to work positively with the people of Los Angeles. So Stan, as I spoke earlier about the sunrise this morning, I did also think of you, because I know we call Paris the City of Lights, but Los Angeles in this morning was a city of light. You could see all the way to Janice Hahn's 15th District in the beautiful glow of the orange sky coming up through the Banning Pass from Mount Gorgonio to Mount San Jacinto, but in the way was all the street lights. And I thought about you, and how many did you engineer to put in thousands and thousands of lights? So Stan, on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, on behalf of the Council of the City of Los Angeles, our Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa and Ms. Gruhl and Mr. Tutinich, I wanted to salute you, and also put a special plug-in for all the field deputies of the council staffs who worked with you over the years and did such a great job. Let's hear it for Stan Horowitz. Okay, thank you. Good job. Thank you very much. Okay, and tell me your wife's name again? Susan. Yeah. Stan's wife, Susie's here. Give her a big hand, Susan. Good job. Okay. And all those people who like Stan, stand up for Stan right now if you were there. Good there. All these people benefited from that. Good job. Stan, you want to say a few words?
Mr. President and council members, and especially Tom, thank you very much for this honor this morning. I want to just add a little more. Tom's pretty knowledgeable about this, and we worked very closely for years. When I started at the Bureau of Street Lighting, we only had about 25% of the streets lighted, and now we have about 70%. So you see that's been a very great improvement. We still have a lot to do. When I started, we were just starting to use mercury vapor lights. We changed to high-pressure sodium, and actually most of our lights are that way now. But now we're moving to LED lighting, and the amazing thing is that we'll only be using about 10% of the energy that we would have used if we still had the incandescent lights. It's a tremendous savings in energy and air quality. The most enjoyable part of my career with the city was to work with every one of your offices and your staff and finding solutions to the street lighting problems and meeting their needs. That includes planning and funding and design and actual building of major projects throughout the city, from the harbor to the valley to East Los Angeles to West Los Angeles, Central LA, giving people a feeling of security and safety by reducing the crime and accidents. And it also includes many times when I went to your neighborhoods to talk to people about how they could get lighting and the benefits of that lighting. And together with my staff and working with those residents, we install lighting in those very large areas of the city, Metro Rail and other rail projects, Vincent Thomas Bridge, Alley.
St. Vincent Thomas.
St. Vincent.
Yeah.
That was a very important project for me. and all the alleys in Council Districts 7, 8, and 9. So there were some very big impacts, and we were very proud of being able to help your offices to get those things done. And finally, we kept all of the streetlights in the city on through the collection of the annual street lighting maintenance assessments, despite the fact that it was frozen since Proposition 218 was adopted in 1996. I want to thank all the staff and management of the Bureau of Street Lighting, all of your staffs, and all of the bureaus and departments who worked with us to accomplish all these things and many more. And thank you for the opportunity to have a rewarding career with the City of Los Angeles and all of it in the Bureau of Street Lighting. Thank you.
Stan, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And we're going to take some pictures in back, but another hand for Stan Horowitz right there. All right, Stan. Thank you. See, we're going to take a picture in back right there. We're going to come over right there. Why don't you go right there? Mr. President, may I also introduce someone who is extremely precious and special, Molly Wong, the true ambassador to City Hall. Many people here from Molly. Come on up there. Oh, look at all these people who love you, Molly. Look behind you right there. Look at they're all coming up. City Clerk. Molly Wong is very special because she worked 42 years with the City of Los Angeles, which is somewhat of accomplishment. Not, I think President Johnson was president when you started in 1967. Over those years in your career, you started as a clerk typist in the city administrative office with Mr. Piper. Is that correct?
That's right.
And Mr. Piper was there, who we named the Piper Technical Center. Did you know that, Mr. Weezar? Mr. Piper was the CAO at the time, and Molly taught him everything he knew. Molly, for many years, was well known as also the welcoming face, because right outside the mayor's office and outside the clerk's office and those historic doors, there's those little booths there, and then those booths was Molly Wong. So anyone who had a problem, they would see Molly, and Molly would direct them to the right department, especially when all the departments were concentrated here in City Hall. She was a very welcoming face and always helped people in that way. Transferred out of the office of the city clerk, in 2001, she worked from that position into the vault to handle all the important council files and make sure they were done and documented properly. She received the City Employee of the Month from the All City Employees Association in her career, and she also was recognized at the Outstanding Service Award in 2006 for her commitment to the work in Los Angeles in the city clerk's office. I loved her because I often would bring various groups from around the world that came to City Hall, and I would turn them over to Molly, who would work with the Angelinas under Mr. Bradley's administration, and then Mr. Rids and Mr. Hans, and now Mr. Villaragosas, and try to give them that special feeling when you get to this great historic building that it's a place to be. I've always been impressed with Molly because she was involved with affairs to improve abilities for people. She was a graduate of Poly High School, Mr. Alacone, but not Poly in Sun Valley, but Poly on Washington Boulevard, where Tom Bradley went to, which is now Los Angeles Trade Technical College. But she's a great Poly graduate. She has 3 beautiful children, Cynthia, Vincent, and Kimberly. We're here to give them a big hand, and also their grandchildren, Jonathan, Tyler, Nicholas, and Evan. Molly Wong is one of the iconic faces at City Hall. She will be remembered for her great work and her kindness, the sweetest person in the building, and with a wonderful heart and always a help. And now I would like to ask the great city clerks of Los Angeles, come closer, all city clerks, all clerks. Join with me, city clerks, yes, because you and the people at Creative Services do such a great job. Everybody in chorus. Now, therefore, be it resolved by adoption of this resolution, we hereby salute Molly Wong for her 42 years of great service to the city of Los Angeles, and we wish her well in every single endeavor. Let's hear it for Molly Wong. I love you. Okay. Thank you, Molly. Okay.
I want to thank everyone that had a part in my receiving this wonderful resolution. I am filled with appreciation and gratitude. I am so proud that all of you have come to honor me today. I feel so special. It has been my pleasure and good fortune to have worked with so many wonderful people and to have worked in the city administrative office and the city clerk's office. May I present my family?
Yes.
This is my daughter Cynthia, my daughter Kimberly, her husband Myron, my grandson Evan, my grandson Jonathan,
Jonathan, talk to the microphone. Remember, you're a clerk.
and Jen, his girlfriend, in back of him. My son Vincent and my son-in-law Gordon. Have I missed anybody? I hope not. I have two other grandsons that are away in college and away in school, and they couldn't be here today. Thank you for loving me and taking such good care of me. I've had 42 happy years working here for the city of Los Angeles. Thank you, my friends, for the love, for the respect that you have shown me and for sharing your lives with me. I will never forget you. I want the best for all of you, and I will cherish this resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Molly Wong, give her a big hand there.
Thank you.
Big picture. Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to go back to the...
Thank you, Mr. Labange, and congratulations. 42 years of dedicated service, Polly. Thank you. Our next presentation, Mr. Alarcon
Maggie Whalen.
from CD7. Mr. Alarcon.
I'll get all the city staff real quick. City staff first, then we got to get back to
All right, let's call the roll. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Han, Weezer, Koretz, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 13 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Very well, thank you. Next item, presentation by Mr. Alarcon. Mr. Alarcon has a car in the chambers. Mr. Alarcon has a huge car in the chambers. I hope we can get a picture of the car in the chambers. There we go. Talk about a life-size
We would
car.
ask you not to put your traffic cop hat on.
Were you wearing your seatbelt and not using your cell phone?
I would ask Councilmember Garcetti to join me up here. I'm actually recognizing an organization in his district, if he is available. He was just here a minute ago. In any case, I'm sure Eric will join us in a second. As you all know, I give recognition to organizations that promote child safety, and based on an accident that occurred 22 and a half years ago, where my son lost his life in a car accident, and so that led me to introduce a bill to expand dollars for pediatric trauma care, but also trauma care in general. Under SB 1773, the bill that was passed, and counties were enabled to extend additional fees on things like speeding tickets and even domestic violence fines. So as a result of that, we've generated literally millions of dollars, I think over $20 million to date, just for the pediatric trauma care units. The first $2 million went to promote at Northridge Hospital, the first ever San Fernando Valley pediatric trauma care center. And I'm here to recognize Children's Hospital because they have developed a very innovative educational program. And you know, I've said this before publicly, that Richie didn't make it to the trauma care center in the golden hour, which would have increased his odds of surviving tremendously. But honestly, I don't know that there was anything that Children's Hospital could have done. It was a severe car accident where his great-grandmother was killed instantly, and the driver of the other vehicle, who was going 97 miles an hour, was killed instantly as well. So there was not much that could be done. But it does ask the question, what can we do to prevent these accidents from occurring and saving lives by preventing accidents and other traumatic experiences. So that's what we're here to announce, is that Children's Hospital has developed a very innovative educational tool. And we have a few slides because the purpose of this educational tool is specifically to teach school children about traffic safety. And I would like to encourage all of my colleagues that when you have special events in your district, you're going to have a very special new child safety educational tool at your disposal, and hopefully you will use it at the community fairs and at schools in your district to educate kids about how to avoid pedestrian-related traffic accidents. So with that, I'd like to have the 3 slides up on the screen, as you can see. That's this car, to give you a sense of how big this project is. It's over 2,000 square feet. And the kids will be able to walk through it. I'll let Children's Hospital explain this in greater detail. But I just wanted to recognize Children's Hospital for developing this. And it is funded out of Ritchie's Fund, which is part of the county's traumatic care response system. Of course, the long-term goal of LA Street Smarts, and by the way, they call this LA Street Smarts Ritchie's Neighborhood, so it's very touching for me to have that designation. So the obvious purpose is to decrease the incidence of child pedestrian trauma. The project's main objective is to educate elementary school-aged children about the hazards associated with walking near, in, and around streets. And obviously, if you look at one slide, and this slide over here, it says Ritchie Elementary School. So Children's Hospital really knows how to get to me and my family, but it's with a sense of pride. And I said this again, when you lose a small child, you're looking for a sense of purpose in that child's life. This adds purpose to my son's life, and I want to thank Children's Hospital for that. So with that, I'd like to introduce the folks that are responsible for developing this. First of all, Jeffrey Upperman, who is the Director of Trauma Pediatric Surgery at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles.
Thank you, Member Alarcon. We felt your pain and your tragedy, and in your 1 hour of darkness, we decided to answer with 23 answers or 23 hours of success. And so we felt that we could have the most impact by providing a prevention activity. Sure, we could have thought about hiring another neurosurgeon or another orthopedic surgeon or, heck, giving me some more money, but that's not the goal here. Really, the goal is about trying to improve the health of all Los Angelenos through preventing, trying to create behaviors that are safe, that are smart, that really families can become involved with. So this is not just for the San Fernando Valley. This is really for all of LA to shine. This is a unique partnership, and I'd like to introduce our designer who really took our vision and took some of your passion and have her say a few words, Miss Katie Byron, who really took this to the top.
Thank you, Dr. Upperman. As an Angeleno and a set designer working in the industry for nearly a decade, it was a new experience for me to build something that has the potential to save thousands of lives. Thank you.
And of course, we have a team of Helen Arbogast, who's a public health expert here, and my right-hand man, Michael Jordan, the real Michael Jordan, who makes it all happen. And again, this is for the service to the community. Please call us. Please ask. We're your Level 1 Pediatric Trauma Center. We're the only freestanding Level 1 Pediatric Trauma Center in LA County, and we're here to serve. Thank you very much for this recognition.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to present certificates to each of the representatives here. Helen Arbogast. Would you like to say something? She looks at the doctor. Katie Byron. And Dr. Upperman. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I always wanted to give a certificate to Michael Jordan, so I want to thank you for that opportunity. And of course, what I can tell you is that from the moment we had our experience with Children's Hospital to the time when we ended that experience, I can tell you that notwithstanding the fact that we lost our son, there was a sense that this is a very special place, and that will always remain in our hearts. The respect that we were treated with, the care that they gave to Richie, the efforts that they made to save his life will never be forgotten. So this one goes to Children's Hospital for the continued child safety, the saving of lives, but also the care that they give to those who are within their care. We thank them so much. They are one of the gems of the County of Los Angeles, and we thank them so much for the service they provide day in and day out. And again, I want to encourage my colleagues to use this system to educate kids about how to be safer in pedestrian. You know, I thought this was going to be a tiny little car, but as you can see, it's bigger than a smart car, and so the kids actually get a sense. And actually, I guess it's inflated so that if it bumps into a kid, they know they got hit, but they'll know they made a mistake. It also has some high-tech devices that give different kinds of warnings. So I hope you will all use this at your community fairs, your school openings, your all those special events that the public commenters talk about. We want you to use this so that we could save lives in Los Angeles. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alagon. Thank you, and thank you, Children's Hospital, for all the good work you do. Mr. Huizar.
Doctor, thank you so much. If we could step to the back, maybe we can take some pictures. Oh, you got to take it back. Did you get some of the strangest looks
Good morning, colleagues and public. It's really my pleasure to stand here today with some wonderful women from Eagle Rock, and I wanted to recognize, along with the community of Eagle Rock, a wonderful organization that started as an organization to support women and women's rights, but now has expanded to be one of the cornerstones of the activism and community beautification in Eagle Rock. And I'm talking about the 20th Century Women's Club of Eagle Rock. The 20th Century Women's Club of Eagle Rock is a jewel in the community. And when you think Eagle Rock, you think of a nice, small town feeling neighborhood in a large metropolitan area. And one of the things that allows it to continue to be this great place to live is because of the active residents that it has. And when you think about the active residents, you think about the women who day to day do the work to make sure that Eagle Rock continues to be a great neighborhood. And the 20th Century Women's Club of Eagle Rock has been at the center of this. The club was founded in 1903 by a group of hardworking women inspired to establish a club for public service and self-improvement. The clubhouse was dedicated in 1915 through the efforts of club members, and it became a significant force in the Eagle Rock community. Its members have a lengthy history of support and enterprise for the community of Eagle Rock and its residents. And the members of the club advocate for social rights and services, beginning with the petition for women's suffrage, the means to have a local Carnegie Library, and petitioning Occidental College, President Obama's former college in Eagle Rock, to accept women at their school. Programs provided by the club aided people who would not otherwise receive it, including students, nurses, and mothers. And the club has hosted a wide variety of community events and fundraisers for community causes. It's always open and willing to help the local community by having its facility be the host to a number of community meetings. The Women's Club has received the coveted Josephine Siemens Civic Award from the Federation of Women's Clubs and 21 Community Achievement Awards from the Verdugo District of the Federation of Women's Clubs. And the clubhouse was made a cultural monument in 1991. And the Women's Club continues to thrive with a continued sense of purpose and service to the community of Eagle Rock and all of Northeast Los Angeles. The energetic and caring women of this club continue the legacy of community service and leadership which the founders intended. When you think activism, when you think community help, when you think care for your neighbor, and in many of our districts, council members, it is sometimes those organizations that are always there willing to support that make the difference, and that's what the 20th Century Women's Club is all about. And I want to invite and welcome to these council chambers some of the leaders from this wonderful club. Eugenie Noguera, the president. Give her a round of applause. Karen Warren, the historian. Hello, Karen. Ro Muzingo, House and Grounds. Ro. And the ever-present Lanny Stapp, Hospitality. So thank you. With that, we'll have a few words from our president. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members, and thank you, Jose Huizar, our favorite 14th District council member. We are actually a club of 90 volunteers. Unfortunately, the others are very busy volunteering at the time, and we are very proud and honored to be here. And yes, we will accept this proclamation on behalf of our members in the club and the hardworking things that we do. So thank you for honoring us, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Ms. Noguera, on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, on behalf of the community of Eagle Rock, I want to present this certificate, this resolution on behalf of the city for all the years. Now, how long has the club been there? Since 1903, and it continues strong in a beautiful building on the corner of
Hermosa and Colorado.
Hermosa and Colorado, a historical monument, Mr. Labange. So thank you very much. On behalf of the City of Los Angeles, many more years, another century of service to the community.
And I'd like to add that you're welcome anytime to come and see our facility. We welcome you. We host you. It would be really great to see you in our building. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Round of applause.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Get it, good ladies. She wants to. Get over here, Lisa.
Women's 20th Century Club. Thank you, Mr. Huizar. Our next presentation, Feline Friday. Mr. Koretz, Feline Friday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, man. I wanted to say hi.
Good morning. I'm happy to be standing here for another Feline Friday where we give away one of our cats for adoption from our shelters. And today's kitten is named Pudge, although she's a very petite little black and white short hair. She's 11 weeks old, and she's also one of the luckiest kittens around because she was found after spending 3 days between the walls of a structure. She was rescued and then nursed back to health after that experience. She's the sweetest kitten I've ever seen, very adorable. And if you would like this very lucky cat, who will be an excellent addition to your family and hopefully bring it luck as well, you can call my office at 213-473-7005 or come down to the council chambers to adopt her. Generally, to adopt an animal from one of our shelters, interested parties can start the process by calling the following number. So if you're watching at home, grab a pen. It's 888-452-7381 to reach any of our 6 animal shelters. In addition, photos of our available animals and information on all of our shelters can be found on the website laanimalservices.com. So if you're interested in a particular animal, come on down to the shelter it's at to visit it and start the process. And this one is the sweetest kitten you could ever have. So somebody, hopefully in the building, will come down and grab her. So this is Pudge, a beautiful little kitten. And she's been purring all morning. She's very sweet. And so come on down and adopt her. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. She has an ID number also if you're calling about her later. It's A1058783.
Thank you very much. That will conclude our presentations. If we can run through our agenda, please.
First order of business is approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Weston moves and Mr. Zion seconds. Those will be approved. Next order of business.
commendatory resolutions for approval.
All right, Mr. Reyes moves, and Mr. Labange seconds. Without objection, those will be approved as well. We can
And
then-
before beginning the regular agenda, Mr. President, there's a request to continue item number 3 to November 18th.
Any objection, colleagues, to continue item 3 till the 18th? Seeing no objections, we'll go ahead and continue that. We can go through the other items.
Item number 1 is an item for which public hearing has been held, and the HCED report has been submitted and distributed to the council members.
Anybody wishing to call that special from the council? Seeing none, let's go ahead and prepare the roll on number 1 and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
All right, that is approved. Next items.
Next items are 2 through 18, and those are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration. A substitute motion has been distributed on item number 18, and there are cards on 2, 5, 14, and 17.
Okay, let's close the public hearings on the other items.
18 special for
18
Ms.
for Mr.
Hahn.
for Ms. Hahn. And any other specials, colleagues? Now let's go ahead and take up the balance, please. 20, we're almost there. On the balance of these, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. If we can call the roll for the special meeting.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 13 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
All righty. We'll start first with item 19 and 20. Mr. Rosendahl, want to call 20 special, and we do have a card on 19. Why don't we, and on 20 as well. Let's go ahead and take those up while we're still in the special meeting. Our first speaker, then we'll come back to the regular meeting, including public comment. Our first speaker is John Walsh on item 19, and then Dr. Clyde Williams.
John Walsh, blogging with Mickey Jackson at HollywoodHighlands.org. 40,000 visitors since September 1st. Again, our old friend Cirque du Soleil. You just can't do enough free money and giving away airspace now. We're giving them the very air of Los Angeles. Why don't you put it in a smog package and send it up to Montreal? And remember, every dollar of Cirque du Soleil goes back up to Montreal. I'm not anti-French. I have French relatives. You see what's happening here? The Kodak Theater, they're going to build a gigantic Cirque du Soleil dressing room. They can't build it beneath because the water levels have risen so high. Of course, they are deteriorating the subway station there, that now we have to rescue Cirque du Soleil again. Now, Cirque du Soleil, I have a commercial. It's only $120 for a seat to see Cirque du Soleil out in Santa Monica, but they have some discount seats for $60. We are subsidizing, you know what the Romans used to call it? Bread and circuses. Read our blog on the Cirque du Soleil. It actually bailed out the sexual stimulus money, actually bailed out the developer at Hollywood and Highlands. We are Hollywood and Highlands.org. We are not developers. I want you to realize that there is not enough money for Eric Garcetti to throw at our French friends who are presenting half-nude trapeze artists, which we're paying for. Thank you. While the firemen are dying.
Thank you. Dr. Clyde Williams is our next speaker.
I don't speak French, but Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno. Particularly concerned regarding airspace within the overall city of Los Angeles. This is only one example of what can be and what may be done in the future. Our concerns focus a lot on the future specific plans of the cornfields Arroyo Seco and downtown as to who can build how high over what city properties, especially the yards and the parking areas. So I'd like to have the city or the Department of Transportation or somebody do a survey of all of the airspace that can be sold or leased out. Also, would be nice to have a copy of the lease agreement to make sure that it's auditable for 25 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I wasn't going to speak on this, but I know a couple of things have been brought up, so I'll just very briefly address them. This is part of the excitement of bringing local jobs here. Folks who followed the Cirque that Mr. Walsh pointed out, Cirque du Soleil is in town in Santa Monica this week. Channel 5 did some interviews. The 3 contortionists that they interviewed were actually all from California. There's local hiring connected in direct jobs. The stagehands that are out of work, the middle-class jobs that we depend on, that we always say we're so business unfriendly in this city, and that we do nothing to actually produce local jobs. We do nothing to help that waitress, that busboy, the people that are there. This is a part of just rehearsal space. This is, and of course, that money can't be applied to firefighters. I think Mr. Walsh and others know that. This is federal loan money previously that had been approved that goes throughout the city. It's never been used in Hollywood before. It's been used everywhere else in the city, the Valley, South LA, etc. But this is rehearsal space for the exciting performers. Right now, Cirque works with homeless youth in Hollywood through My Friend's Place and others. They've been doing that for years, even before they decided to have a permanent show here. Some of those folks are going to be formerly homeless, emancipated foster care youth. Are going to be actually some of the performers, the stagehands, as I mentioned, etc. But that performance space, which was never envisioned to be below, it has to be above. We have the right, because we own it, the people own it, not the city of the city council, but the people own that. So this airspace allows them to be able to do those performances. It's not being used for anything else. It's not money being thrown their way. It's allowing them to be able to create a great generation of performers, many of them brought up right here in Los Angeles to perform in good jobs and to keep that economy in Hollywood, which, by the way, in the last 8 years, through the investments we've made in public-private partnerships, we've boosted the tax revenues coming out of Hollywood by 4-fold. And that's been something that's helped every part of the city to hire police officers, to hire firefighters, etc. So I urge your support today. Thank you.
Very well. Mr. Cardenas.
Yes, I want to thank you, Eric Garcetti, for clarifying this matter. I think it's very important that people understand that some people might get alarmed when they hear things like airspace, and they might think shenanigans are going on, or people are getting opportunities that maybe should not happen. So I just want people to understand that there are major cities like Los Angeles around the country that have a lot of space that has already been built, and they're just begging for people to actually occupy that space. I think we're very fortunate here in the city of Los Angeles that we have such a demand for space that people are actually willing and asking if we could use our airspace rights and authority to go ahead and create more opportunities for them to create jobs, for them to have actual activity going on here. I think it's very important for people to understand that one of the responsibilities of local government, in this case, the big city of Los Angeles, is to try our best to manage these responsibilities and at the same time not act in such a way that people start to say that Los Angeles is not a place where we're welcome to actually to expand and grow. When that happens, you have situations, for example, like Detroit, unfortunately. Detroit is hemorrhaging when it comes to the lack of jobs. Detroit is hemorrhaging when it comes to the lack of opportunities and the willingness for companies to actually occupy the space that is already there and empty and almost being given away for free. So the responsibility that we have as policymakers here, the responsibility that we have to try to balance the issues of planning and opportunity for growth and jobs is the responsibility of the City Council, and I think this is a very simple and perhaps overlooked responsibility that, once again, Council President Garcetti, I'm glad that you took a few moments to explain what's going on here, because a lot of times when people hear things like airspace, they think shenanigans are going on. With all due respect, this is a responsible act that we're taking, and thank you for moving it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. No other speakers. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Very well. Forthwith on that.
And take up 20.
Next item, we're going to go to 20, please.
And that was called social by Councilmember Rosendahl, and there are cards as well.
Mr. Rosendahl, we have a card. We'd like to hear from the speaker first. Okay. Marl Sachs on number 20. And then we'll go to Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. Congratulations for the Transportation Department finally taking some steps on eliminating the overtime free ride for the 6 or 7 venues throughout the city. Wouldn't want any shenanigans to occur in the city. A 4-fold increase in tax revenue from Hollywood. Previously, it was used to pay for the overtime, $10 million in the last couple of years, that the venues in Hollywood weren't paying for traffic control and police control. Which makes me ask this question. If the Department of Transportation is making an effort to control these overtime costs, what is the police department doing? It was discussed in the Transportation Committee that only traffic control officers and sworn LAPD officers could have the ability to direct traffic in city where events take place. So what's to stop a venue operator from eliminating traffic control officers from the LA DOT and requesting more police? Then who pays the overtime? And why isn't that being considered? It was also discussed in the Transportation Committee by the head of the Transportation Committee department, the LA DOT, that they had been on the request over a year and a half to have this overtime policy looked into. The city's been in a financial free fall for 2 years. Why did it take so long, $10 million in overtime just for the LA DOT, not including the police, for this item to be looked into? What was the story? Shenanigans in LA? And don't forget, airspace for billboards.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're circulating a substitute motion right now, and if I could ask Len to come on up and explain to us where we are in this whole process, I think all my colleagues will be very happy about it. Come on, Len, come on up. You're up. There's been a lot of work done since we discussed this, colleagues, earlier in the week. As you know, we've run out of money to do a lot of the things we want to do. So it's truly, since I'm transportation, this is when the rubber has hit the road, and now we're down to 2 issues. The good news was in our Transportation Committee meeting, we went through all the major venues, and I got to tell you, Alan Willis, as far as I'm concerned, walks on water. He met with all of the different venues and got them to fund it themselves, each of these projects. Of course, I was on Larry Mantle yesterday because the Dodgers had the playoff game last night, and everybody was worried would they have our offices there to move people in and out. And yes, we had worked out a deal with the Dodgers where they were picking up the costs. And we have every one of these venues picking up the costs. We still have other venues that we're going to be dealing with, but there's no crisis of a time schedule on them. Like AEG is a group we got to really get with, since we've been so supportive of them over the years. We need out of them some support back. But Len, we're talking more or less about special events that we as council members get engaged in, some citywide and some district-wide. For instance, Mr. Koretz is providing the leadership this weekend on the AIDS Walk, which is a big deal in the city, as well as he has an event in one of his other areas that will have tens of thousands of people. All of us have events that we are working on that are important to the city. So we have a situation that required some real creative thinking. Len, tell us what this substitute motion is about and where we are on the whole issue.
Okay. What we did in the substitute motion before you is we're recommending that the council approve a cash flow loan for DOT overtime, so that would allow them to still go out and provide necessary services to protect public safety. We've worked with DOT, and we've determined that they can free up money that they're holding in reserve out of their budget allocation for overtime for contracted events that they know that they're going to have to serve this year. By providing a cash flow loan in that amount will allow DOT to go ahead and
continue to use that money that they've been holding in reserve, and in anticipation of getting this cash flow loan, they'll continue to service those events that are happening today and going forward until the special events fee subsidy policy is in place and effective.
The substitute loan, and what kind of a dollar figure are we looking at, and where is the substitute loan coming from, and how will this loan be paid back?
The cash flow loan, we've determined that if the council is able to provide a loan in the amount of $410,000, that would be sufficient. We're recommending that the loan come from the general city purposes, special events, fee subsidy account for citywide events, that's where the source of the loan should be. And the way that those funds will be repaid to that account will be when the event sponsors with the contracted events repay the city, then the loan will be repaid to the citywide special event fee subsidy account.
And what if those groups can't come up with the money?
They're contracted to do so. So we're basically guaranteed that that money is going to come in. We also have the fallback that beginning on October 26th, special event sponsors will have to pay for their city permits and fees in advance. So money will be coming in from those sources as well, so that the citywide fund can be repaid.
Well, I really appreciate your work on this. I know you're working around the clock on it, and you got DOT involved, especially Rita Robertson and her whole staff, and they're not here in any kind of a energy way because you've taken the lead on what you've done on that. Colleagues, any comments? Mr. Koretz, you can do your AIDS walk, and among other things. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have Mr. Labange, Mr. Parks, Mr. Cardenas, and Mr. Koretz. Mr. Labange.
Yeah, members, I think, time has come, as Mr. Rosendahl stated, but there's issues that are beyond that. My issue is we have a great county facility called the Hollywood Bowl. They only have 2,900 parking spaces. They have the greatest of all bus program for transit than all other venues put together the whole year. Probably in one night, more people take public transit to the Hollywood Bowl than they do to any other facilities because of how it's worked with the support of the County Board of Supervisors, with the support of the MTA. Because it sits right on an off-ramp and an on-ramp to the Hollywood Freeway, US 101, they park buses in the street after they drop them off after the show clears. I don't want us to walk away, Lynn, from a safety issue that's there. There are certain obligations, yes, that we're going to the local venues, but certain realities are there's no options but to park buses so patrons can get in on that. I'm not totally satisfied with the result of this issue because there is a situation there that we have people who park buses in the street, that people, not just from this city, but from around the county, frequent a venue, a cultural venue, and at the Hollywood Bowl. So I'm going to be looking at it very closely to come back with options. I also wanted to ask Lynn, and if you could hold my time on this here, is there any audit done? Because I remember Ms. Hahn made a brilliant statement once in reviewing I'm sorry, correct that, Mr. City Attorney. She makes a brilliant statement all the time. She focused on a $58,000 estimated cost for an event that no one could figure out why. And I believe Mr. Weston, who's very brilliant any day of the week, also, and can move couches like Superman, also came up with how much of these, are we auditing what these costs are? Hold my time for a second.
Well, beginning October 26th, we will have a much better record going forward of what our actual costs are to provide services for these events, because in advance, departments are going to be providing an estimate, and we'll be collecting that amount from the event sponsors. And once the event is done, there'll be a reconciliation. If the event sponsor has paid too much, they will be credited or reimbursed, whatever the difference is. So
we'll have to look at
the
that.
council did a wonderful thing when they approved that special events fee subsidy policy and the procedure that goes along with it.
Right, but Hollywood Bowl, you would think, is somewhat unique in the fact that it has the access challenge there. Have you been to the Hollywood Bowl?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever taken the bus to the Hollywood Bowl?
Yes, I have.
And so you know how great it is.
That's the only way I get there.
It's the only way it is, but they have no option there, so we don't want to create a safety hazard, because that's an access. There's I believe, only 7 roads to the San Fernando Valley of major consequence. The Cahuenga Pass, the Sepulveda Pass, Santa Susana Pass, and other passes as well. So I'll pass right now from continuing anymore, with the exception that I want to look at this. And also, members, I just want to let you know, prior to this whole discussion, and I thank you, Mr. Parks, there, I did talk to department staff to create a special events. Mr. Rosendahl, I want you to hear this here as Chairman of Transportation, a special events unit within our city structure. And I think we've got to look to that, to the future of teaming people together if we really want to continue to serve people like we have in the past, because it may become a hurdle. I know we've got to jump over hurdles, but it may become a hurdle for people to engage in the special events that we know and love that make Los Angeles so unique if we make it so difficult. But I'm going along with this right now, but I'm holding out on the Hollywood Bowl. The Greek Theater matter was resolved because Recreation and Parks, I believe, has stated that they will take it from their contract that they have with the operators of the Greek Theater. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Parks is our next speaker, then Mr. Cardenas, Mr. Kretz, and Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank Lynn for coming up with this solution. This has been a 7 or 8 year odyssey for us. One of the things I think is important for all of us to know that after the 26th, the money's been put aside in your accounts. The process is in place, the one-stop center, and so that process will move full steam ahead. What's also important to know is that LADOT, we've exhausted their entire year's overtime in 3 months or 3.5 months by continuing to waive items. And what we're finding just in a very short time is many people had expressed a concern about whether these estimates we've dealt with in the past were estimates that were overcompensating as to the amount of money. What we've also found almost immediately is that many of the estimates are lowballing those figures. So we will know after this year what the true cost is for the first time in the city, and we'll have a system that we're able to deal with. I would hope that all of our staffs have been with street services to clearly understand what their requirements are and how they're going to move forward. And I'd hope that as we move forward, we know that the funds are there for subsidy. We no longer waive, but it's important that we continue to look at a way to serve the public. And as Mr. Labange talked about the concerns at his commercial venues, we have similar concerns at the Coliseum, but we also know that people are going to have to change the way they used to do business. The first meeting that LADOT had with the Coliseum, they found out after discussion that maybe LADOT was deploying 15 to 20 more traffic officers than were maybe necessary. So these are the kinds of discussions that will be occurring. And just as we had in T Committee the other day, LADOT wants to revisit all of those travel arrangements and plans at the Greek Theater to see if it is the safest way to do business and if it's the best way to do business under the current situation. So I think it's something that's a long time in coming. If it works as it was perceived, we will be saving the city literally millions of dollars, getting away from waivers and moving to a more defined process of subsidy.
Mr. Cardenas.
So with this movement of funds from one account to the other, and then therefore it can cushion the amount of time necessary for reimbursements, in that process, on the events that we're going to be reimbursed eventually throughout the year, is this providing an opportunity that we not get reimbursed?
I don't think it's providing any opportunity for not getting reimbursed that didn't exist anyway.
Okay. So This isn't moving money around so that people can make the excuse not to reimburse us. That obligation remains regardless of this action today.
Exactly.
Correct. Once again, I just wanted to make sure that nobody tries to allude to the idea that we're literally moving city money around and then using the term of reimbursable items, et cetera, and people thinking that we're actually doing it so that people don't have to reimburse. The action we're taking today clearly has absolutely nothing to do with rescinding anybody's responsibility whatsoever for reimbursement. If these are reimbursable items that belong to the City of Los Angeles, we're going to require them to reimburse whether this action takes place or not, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Koretz.
Hey, just wanted to thank you for handling the situation with AIDS Project Los Angeles, which is having its 25th anniversary walk. They've helped so many tens of thousands of people with AIDS and HIV, and I'm glad we're not putting their event this weekend into chaos. So I just wanted to thank you for scrambling and finding a solution on short notice to this particular situation. We all appreciate it.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, I just want to also add that the Department of Transportation leadership is here. They've looked at the motion, and they're okay with it as well. And this was one of those amazing creative strategies here. It gets us out of the woods, folks, but as we get forward, we must realize that every one of these special events has to find sponsorship to pick up the tab. The public can't pick it up anymore. We don't have those kinds of funds. Most of us, if not all of us, have been talking to our group, so I know we're one step ahead. And as Mr. Labange was talking about the Hollywood Bowl, we're not talking about any of that here. We're talking about those events that you and I do with our constituents. So as we go forward, the fee waiver notion is going to be part of the past. And we just have to make sure we clearly understand we need to find partners. But this is a solution. This gets us out of the woods, and it gives us the opportunities to go forward for the short term here with these issues. So again, thank you. Thank you, Rita and her staff over there. I see a few of them, Amir and John Fisher. All of them work together, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the substitute that has been distributed without objection. We'll accept that as friendly. Let's go ahead and prepare the motion. Prepare the vote on the motion and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. That will complete our special meeting. If we can go back to the regular meeting, we'll take general public comment now.
And, Mr. President, do you wish to adjourn the
Yes, please. Let's
special?
adjourn that meeting. Dr. Clyde Williams will be our first speaker for our general public comment. And after that is Nina Royal. Yeah, we'll send that forthwith without objection.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Informed consent requires information. The urban stormwater plan is coming back. We call it Stealth Storm. The implementation plan for the Ballona Creek area will be submitted to the Board of Public Works on Monday. What does it have? We don't know. The council sent it back the last time that the Board of Public Works approved it and submitted it to the city. The last time it was going to go onto the property tax bill. There was no outreach, it was unintelligible, and wasn't right. So in the same way, I think you'll find that Ballona Creek represents the same repetition as last time. Now, the Ballona Creek needs to be done. Now, why now? Because it's already obligated to submit it to the Regional Water Quality Control Board on the 27th of October. Why did it take so long since the last time it was sent back to bring it forward, and why so short a period of time to review it? Oh, by the way, there was no supporting documents attached, and the gentleman that's referenced as to being the source of these very large files that the internet cannot handle, he does not return calls from the Stormwater Division. Oh, it's going to cost $720 million capital cost, $20 million a year in annual cost, and has a $78 million price tag for institutional uses. No funding is available. It's going to be subject to available funding. What's that? We don't have any available funding that I know of, so I'd highly recommend notify Board of Public Works, have it sent to the Energy and Environment Committee.
Thank you. Nina is next. After that is Rusty Millar.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nina Royal. I am a longtime member of the Foothill Division LAPD Community Police Advisory Board. I am also the Vice President in charge of outreach and Safety Chairman of the Sunland Tujunga Neighborhood Council. The reason why I'm here today is to speak on behalf of our public safety departments, the police department, the fire department, general services departments. We need to be safe. You can have all the quality of life issues you want, but if we do not have a safe community, they're worth naught. I can't be here Tuesday, I believe, when you're going to be voting on the furloughs for the police department, as well as stopping the classes until further notice in January. I am totally against this. If you understand how the police department works, and they have testified here day in and day out, I have seen them, what is involved in recruiting officers and the effort they have spent in assuring that we have the top qualified, diversified applicants that we need on our police department, that is all going to be lost. It takes approximately a year to interview and select qualified candidates, and then almost another year for them to go through the academy. That's 2 years. We can't afford that. As being a victim of violent crime myself back in 1993, which is on record, I can testify to you that if you do not have a safe community, you don't need trash, you don't need sanitary services, you don't need those things, because nobody will be here to be able to enjoy them. So I am please asking you that I want an accounting of the trash tax. I'm sorry, but Chief Bratton and Sheriff Baca pushed that tax. It's going for the police only, and now you have lost the public's confidence. You can't get any more bond issues passed because we won't pass them. Thank you.
Ms. Royal. Rusty Millar is our next speaker. After that is Frankie Barra.
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Rusty Millar. I'm a resident of the Silver Lake area, and I'd like to just bring your attention to an incident that I had happen with myself this morning about 7:30. Being a good citizen of Los Angeles, I took delivery of a new energy-efficient refrigerator and had the old one moved outside and called in about the city rebate program, and found out that I have to leave the refrigerator in the house, plugged in, and then arrange for the delivery people to come pick it up. Now, I don't know about the rest of you. Somehow I just don't imagine Councilmember Hahn or the Council President sitting at home trying to coordinate a 4-hour window delivery schedule with a possible 4-hour pickup schedule and having your food sitting out on the counter waiting, and hopefully it won't all go to pot. So perhaps somebody in the rebate program could figure out that if it's available, like in your driveway, that the folks that pick these things up could do so. I told them I'd be glad to run an extension cord into the house and show that it works, but that wouldn't work for them. So, anyways, so I'll have to deal with that. Additionally, I'd like to invite anybody in the council or notify you of 2 events taking place tomorrow, Saturday, one in Silver Lake and one in Northeast. We have tomorrow from noon to 3, the Music Box Steps Day, which I know most of you aren't old enough to remember that movie where Laurel and Hardy are pushing the piano crate up the steps and it keeps sliding down. Well, that happened in Silver Lake. And they do show the movie of that, and it's at 9:30 or so Vendome Street, which is just south of Silver Lake. And I do understand that there is an airbrushed appearance by Councilmember Labange in that movie. So, and then also, the Northeast Police Division is holding their open house from 10 to 4 tomorrow.
Thank you, Rusty.
Hopefully somebody might show up for that. Thank you.
Thanks for the tip on the refrigerator program. We will get on that, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. Frank Ibarra is our next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Frank Ibarra. I'm the president of the forming Westlake Neighborhood Council, and I'm here in support of the Los Angeles Police Department. I don't want to see their funding cut or cutbacks within the department. Again, I specifically live in the Rampart area and very active. I'm on the CPAP and I'm also on the Police Activities League board. And I know that, speaking for the Rampart Station, that they have been doing a lot of good work. They have the juvenile intervention program. They have the CPAB. They do a lot of community policing, and things are beginning to improve more and more each year. And I would hate to see that be a roadblock as far as funding. So I'm in support of the department increase, and I'm opposed to a cut in the Rampart or the LAPD funding. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John Walsh.
Waiting for my 2 minutes. I'll take the extra 30 seconds. John Walsh, HollywoodHighlands.org. There is a public event you didn't mention we have in Hollywood at Gramercy Place and Hollywood Boulevard, a medical marijuana smoke-in, the first in the history of the United States. If you're 18, 19, or 20, come on in. You can't buy alcohol in L.A., but you can come to the Medical Marijuana Smoke-In Festival. We're making a special SOS to the FBI. As you know, Obama and Holder, the Attorney General, are preventing the FBI from making arrests in California. We're asking the FBI to observe what's happening on Hollywood Boulevard. If you want to know more about the smoking, go to LAJEMM. And our city councilman hadn't heard of it until I told him about it on Tuesday. I'm telling you right now that the security is poor, smoking, there's a rumor there will be free pot there. In fact, we have no ability in our neighborhood to protect ourselves as crime rises near the medical marijuana clinics. This is the Obama pot party. Are you listening to me, Bill O'Reilly? It's the Obama pot party. It's coming to your neighborhood soon. Are you listening to me, Rush Limbaugh? Sunday, noon, the Obama pot party. Thousands and thousands of heads smoking openly, thanks to the mayor and Mary Jane Garcetti. And to finish by saying, I think that Lou Parker is getting a gift from the city pretty soon. It's an engagement ring from the mayor, HollywoodHighlands.org, if you want to find out about it. These two lovebirds are getting very, very serious. Everything about the pot party, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Arnold Sachs.
Thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. You have an employee who works here for 42 years. You ought to find out how she managed to do that. On Wednesday, you heard some of the discussion that goes on in front of this council, and in 10 minutes you want to jump out of your skin because it's so unbelievably phony. I'd like to discuss a backslapping moment for you council members. That was regarding the new EIR for the Bradley West Terminal. Because it's entirely different than what was proposed according to the plans unveiled last November. This shows the midfield concourse with no EIR, the passageway for domestic and international flights, a passage processing facility immediately across from the Bradley Terminal, not included in the EIR. The original plans back in 2004, the project is the third part of the large master LAX plan. I'm referring to the Bradley West project, which adds another 1 million square feet to the Bradley Terminal. How are they doing that? With a new building. So differentiate between the two of the items. It's just amazing. As we got our hands around the project, we found that it would cost more to renovate Bradley and eventually create an operational nightmare. Bill Rosendahl. Even again, when you're being transparent, you're lying through your teeth. My suggestion, this council should be like schools and create a nickname.
Oscar Johnson.
Council, my name is Oscar Johnson. I'm a proactive. I speak for the oppressed and I speak for culture change. I'd like to thank today for President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle Obama. And any elected official do not support President Barack Obama should be removed from their position. We need to end the abuse in nursing homes. We need to end abuse in our child care system. We need to end drugs on Skid Row. Skid Row is an overflowing of drugs and for homelessness people year after year. Mayor Van Segosi and Councilman Jan Perry get too much fund for not any of it to receive it on Skid Row. We need a safer environment and a cleaner environment on Skid Row. We need more moral conduct in our society. We need more moral relationship in our society. Too many children today is born outside of wedlock. We need jobs. We need to get us African American men off the corner so we can meet females and marry, and so we can try to end this abuse in the society. What's going on today? We need to end the police department. It's just a racket and corruption, just riding the backs of black people for money. The federal government giving government money that's corrupted, and that should stop. And we should indict Lee Brock for his conduct, shooting unarmed people, and the chief of police, Braden, his people doing the same thing. They're not accountable for what they are doing. There's no accountability of the action. Just can shoot innocent citizens and no trial be heard of, and there's no trial heard of it. We need to make our leaders more accountable for their money, for their receiving. We need income postage and statement. Let us know that all the money y'all getting, and so it can be visible in what y'all are doing, what you're doing with it. I have several friends that have written President Barack Obama a letter, and his administration that answered them very fast and very good result. Thank you.
Michael Carrion.
Yes, my name is Michael Carrion. Once again, I'm here to let you guys know that I hope Mr. LeBons was talking to Ms. Walters about the illegal parking outside. We know the police department is coming across the street. Why? 23 cars were parked there this morning illegally. Yet the DOT does nothing about it. They simply allow it. It's a shame that we elect you officials to do something about it, and you sit here and have breakfast during city council meetings. We have the trees are falling in the city of Los Angeles on top of houses and cars. Mr. Rosenthal has a memo stating from Urban Forest that they're not trimming the trees in the proper amount of time, and that makes the city liable. So please contact Urban Forest when they get these claims, pay them. Do not come across with some BS that you guys don't know about the tree problem. City services, city urban forests, contacted Mr. LeBon's offices, and if anybody out there needs a copy of that, let me know. I will give them a copy, and I'm sure they will win their lawsuit. Once again, Ed Reyes failed to clean the property that I have been asking him to clean for a month already, over a month. Mr. Alarcon comes on TV and talks about when we rent out this property, public property, to movie studios, how they ruin and disrupt the quality of life for the people who live there. We got weeds growing 6 feet. Mr. Reyes won't clean them. It's city property, yet you're renting the property out to movie studios. Not only are they coming in, they're shoving the people out, telling them, you can't park here, you can't do this, you got to go over there, because we rented the property. Again, quality of life for some, and the rest of us are royally screwed by you guys. Thank you.
Yvonne Autry.
I'd like to address the council, specifically Councilwoman Jan Perry, regarding the current caretaker of Fire Station 23, who is Daniel Taylor. I'd like to advocate on behalf of extension of his current occupancy, which is to expire November the 1st. I haven't received any correspondence as to why he's being evicted, because he has occupied Fire Station 23 for almost 20 years. Of course, now because this neighborhood is more viable, I suppose, because of the real estate developers that are then offering monies because they would like to develop that site for a for-profit venue, and the community did block that. So we would like to acquire that property, and using Proposition K monies to renovate and to restore Fire Station 23, so that we can continue to use that site as it has been used prior to the Gentry's bids for the development of the for-profit edifice. We'd like to continue to use and maintain the availability of Fire Station 23 for usage of community organized and community grassroots organizations, such as one of your favorite OGs in Service gallery exhibitions for his art, because he is a very talented, very well-known, and very contributive member of the community. Also, Drama Stage Qumran, Skid Row Live, Community Unity Day, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, Skid Row Photography, and we also have had some interaction with Nathaniel Ayers. I've been recording with Mr. Ayers, who was, of course, the subject of The Soloist. So it's very important that we maintain Fire Station 23 available and open for the community, for community-based programs, so that we can, like I said, petition successfully and continue or use Proposition K funding so that we can renovate and then raise the, I guess, the edifice to standards. So again, I like that per record.
Matt Dowd. Our next speaker, Matt Dowd.
All right, thank you. Yes, 30 days goes just like that, you know, but the problems haven't gone away. But first of all, let me say thank you to Janice Hahn for not voting against me when the vote went down. I've sued the decorum. I'm filing a motion for a preliminary injunction. November 9, we'll have the judge rule on whether you can do that. The city thinks they can do it because of White versus City in Norwalk, but those guys never had any as-applied challenges. They never had any specific instances, so they got thrown out. So don't be counting on White. In fact, I'm quoting White versus the City of Norwalk. But the bigger part of the lawsuit is the Venice Beach vending ordinance. See, you guys brought that out in 2008, and the judge and your city attorneys, and we all put that together in 2007. Okay, May 2008, the ordinance came out. But subsequent to that, the Ninth Circuit ruled on Berger versus City of Seattle, and they threw out permit systems for performers completely. That was a smackdown, and now I've got 12 performers who were all getting squeezed, no spots. You got people vending all this stuff from Jan Perry's district with no inextricably intertwined message. You got no guidelines for inextricably intertwined. Pregerson already ruled in the Hunt case that you have to have those guidelines. So I've looked, and there's no guidelines. So we filed on that November the 9th. Hey, let me tell you, a guy came up to me at Venice Beach last night, and I didn't know him. Oh, Matt Dowd. Hey, what's up? I haven't seen you at City Council. Where you been? Like, they know my name. They know, oh, you got banned. So it's, you know, it's great. Thank you. But I'm considering myself chilled in my speech right now until the judge rules on the injunction. And
Thank you. And you have completed that 30-day suspension. Let's go to the San Fernando Valley. Candido Merez and Dr. Weissman in Van Nuys, California.
Thank you, Mr. Zion. Good morning. And I want to thank Molly Wong, who is retiring. Somebody asked how she was able to work in the city for 42 years. I'll tell you how she was able to do it, because she did one thing. She served the people of this great city. That was her one commitment, and I want to thank her, because since 1991, I've had the honor and privilege of knowing her and working with her. And every time you went to her vault, she was just the sweetest, kindest person that you'll ever meet. But there are a lot of city workers like that, so I want to thank all the city workers who work hard each and every day to help us here in the city of Los Angeles. I'm also here because I want to thank those of you who are promoting the Ratepayers Advocate, Inspector General, whatever you want to call him. So Mr. Garcetti, Mr. Smith, Mr. Weezar, Ms. Perry, and all others who are doing that, and also Mr. Pastoris and the DWP committee. Again, we've been waiting for this a long time. In 2004, dedicated, loyal DWP workers brought corruption to our committee, the Small Business Advisory Committee, and we've exposed that, and a lot of changes have taken place. A lot of savings are taking place. So, again, we hope that this will move forward, and that one day we will have a Ratepayers Advocate / Inspector General, and I hope that that individual will be able to protect whistleblowers, because right now whistleblowers are paying a high price for standing up for the people of this great city. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Dr. Weissman.
Good morning, sir. Lots of good things. I want to add my compliments and my thanks to Molly Wong. She is one wonderful example of city service, and we're going to miss her. I want to thank all of her colleagues who perform the way she does. You should know, if you don't know, and I'd like to take this opportunity to speak of two congresses which were held, one last week with the budget presentation of the mayor. The mayor was fixed on the idea that he has to protect the police and to all other considerations, and then he turns around some other time and says that we have to put everything on the table. Mr. Mayor, you're right both times. The other Congress was held a week earlier, called the Action Summit, put together by neighborhood council people, for neighborhood council people, at a time in which they were able to come together, get their opinions, and the proceedings of those meetings are being distributed now. I hope you'll take the time to read them. I hope the people hearing this and seeing this video will take the time to see them. Mr. Garcetti, thank you so much for keeping public comment in the forefront of your agenda, not pushing it back to the adjournment, as you had threatened to do a while ago. It's not proper for you to ignore all of these usual suspects that have been before you today. Now, the major issue is indeed the Inspector General, the Ratepayers Advocate. Mr. Smith has come out with Council File 092544. I hope that's what you'll be speaking of when you present your version. But I do think that this is something that originated in the neighborhood councils 2 years ago, and that you will call on the neighborhood councils to help in the development of this concept, because we've all been extremely concerned with the duplicitous way in which the Department of Water and Power has proceeded.
Thank you, Dr. Weissman. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 2, and that was called special for cards.
Number 2, Mr. Walsh, Mr. Sachs. Item number 2. Thank you.
I'm going to take 1 minute. Item number 2 concerns Barack Obama, President of the United States, and his attempt to stimulate the economy of Los Angeles. It's very vague. If you want information about one particular form of stimulation, for the economy, go to HollywoodHighlands.org and read what's happening. Because what we have now is cannabis stimulation of the economy. Barack Obama has ordered FBI agents not to arrest anybody at the Barack Obama Smoke-In, which will be Sunday at Hollywood and Gramercy. Come there and watch what happens. Are you listening, Glenn Beck? Are you listening? Everybody in L.A. knows. It's coming all over America. HollywoodHighlands.org. Marijuana festivals. Get high, 18, 19-year-olds.
Arnold Sachs, followed by Matt Dowd.
Good morning. Thank you. Arnold Sachs. I have grave concerns over the city's applications for federal funding, evidenced by the egregious lies emanating from the council horseshoes, lying under the pretense of transparency. You hear them, and you just want to scream. Plus, you have the situation where you have articles written about funding for federal projects going on in the port. Still waiting to find out a federal funding project in any of the council districts other than the Port of L.A., which is a proprietary department. There's been some money allocated or requested by the mayor for LAWA. But again, for what? What building? What design? The original design, $3 billion for the runway, the south runway, the Midfield Concourse, and the Tom Bradley renovation. Now, you have no Midfield Concourse, but it was designed. You have a new Crossfield taxiway, which isn't included in the design blueprints. You have a new Tom Bradley West Terminal, which is inferred by the people from the Tourist and Trade Committee to be the same as the Tom Bradley Terminal. And you have a walkway that will connect, according to the designs, the Tom Bradley Terminal and the Midfield Concourse, which doesn't exist. So where is the funding going to go? What projects are we talking about? Get the money first. Team Thieves, your new nickname, is way ahead of the curve. Please pay attention.
Matt Dowd.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Sound, action. Can we have some sound in the chambers? Reset the clock. Thank you, Matt Dowdy. I want 2 minutes on this. Biggest issue in the city is getting money to fix the pain, the bleeding, the commercial real estate market in the city of Los Angeles is bleeding to death right now. Thousands of condos that you approved. They started building them all. You see them all around downtown. The money's run out. The banks don't have the money. They're not lending. The projects run out of money. All the people are out of work. All the big buildings, sites, they're sitting empty. They're never going to sell them. The banks are bleeding on the stock market today. Bank of America and Citibank particularly, they got massive losses on their commercial real estate. The residential real estate market is, you're going to have to let it bleed. Obama is going to have to let them bleed. No more stimulus because it's a free market. You're just taking money out of the Treasury, and then you got to sell bonds overseas, and then China and everybody's going to own America. We have to sell City Hall to pay off the debts. So we need to look forward at some kind of, measures to refund the Los Angeles economy and the city. And unfortunately, those developers and everyone downtown, they're going to have to file bankruptcy. Everybody's bankrupt. It's the truth, really. They're just hiding it now. All the big companies had cost cutting. They just slashed costs and they fired people, just like the city of Los Angeles, and everybody's firing people, which makes the bottom line look healthier. but it's not, because the sales revenue down. The beach is a barometer of sales, and it's down big time everywhere. So tell Obama we need the stimulus money, and we need it for...
Thank you, Matt Dowd. Your time's up. Thank you for your comments. That matter is now before us.
Mr. President, there's no action required on this item. This is
All
just
right.
a weekly placeholder.
So we move on to the next. Let's do number 17, please.
And that was called special for cards.
Mr. Sachs and Mr. Dowd on number 17. Number 17, Mr. Sachs.
Thank you again. Arnold Sachs, a bond issue. Another favorite ploy of the thieves of the council chambers. Again, I ask, who regulate this? Look at what happened with the bonds issued for the airport. $950 million from the city council, $950 million from the LAWA, the airport commission. Pretty amazing that they're both the same. Again, who governed the costs? What will happen if the bonds don't mature at the proper rate? What will happen now with what is the situation regarding the economy? There's difficulty selling bonds. The airport just decided that they couldn't sell some bonds, another $700 million in bonds, based on the economic factors. Who's going to buy these bonds? Who's going to oversee it? The horseshoe thieves? Oh my God.
Mr. Dowd?
Just like to hear my name. No, seriously, I just finished talking about this kind of thing, and here you are doing it again. This is going to be great public comment on November 2, which is when we're setting this for this project, 262-unit residential hotel downtown. Like it's never going to be finished, and nobody's got the money for nobody wants to invest in the city of Los Angeles. You know, who's going to underwrite these bonds for more developments when everything's sitting empty down there? You know, it's just insanity. And this is a $20 million multifamily housing revenue bond. So does that mean we're putting multifamilies in each residence? That's where we're at now. Let's get 3 families in each. Well, we have to, because that's the only way you're going to get the rent to pay off the cost of the overpriced luxury things that you're building everywhere. See? You only have to look around downtown Los Angeles right now. Nobody's out on the construction sites. You can just turn on CNN. They'll tell you, just everybody, turn off Channel 35 and go turn on CNN, and you'll find out what's really happening in America. And it's all across America. See, here's the thing. Like I said, all these construction companies and development companies, they have to lay off their workers because they don't have the money from the banks to keep building. And all the layoffs, all these people, they don't have money anymore. They're unemployed. So they're not out buying things. It's going to be a miserable Christmas, unfortunately. Right now, it's all looking bad, and I wish you would, just let me show you how to fix it.
Thank you, Mr. Dowd. Matters now before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, we have one other speaker on this. That card was just turned in. Ms. Autry. Those in the audience, if you wish to speak on an item, please turn the card in promptly before the matter comes before us.
Mr. President, that matter needs to be reconsidered.
Yes, I shall in the future. Thank you so much for recognizing my card and my request to speak, Mr. Zine. I'd just like to speak in advocacy.
Hey, before you speak, we need to reconsider the item. Okay. On the reconsideration, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
The matter now for the public speaker. Ms. Autry, go ahead.
Thank you. Would I have the 2 minutes that is recovered now? Thank you so much, Mr. Rosenbaum. I just would like to advocate in general on behalf of housing that would accommodate families instead of just single-room occupancies or dwellings which have been traditionally downtown for single men or women, especially right now in the move to expand and regentrify downtown. So again, I would encourage you to allocate any funding towards developing multifamily housing projects, whether they're residential, hotels, or traditional apartments, lofts, condominiums. And I would advocate that you would hopefully increase the availability of affordable housing units for apartments. Affordable housing for families, because there are families that are downtown who are still suffering economic challenges. So we need dwellings that are conducive to families again, and not just single-room occupancies, which has been the standard, especially for working class and those that are economically challenged currently. Thank you very much.
All right, that matter is now before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Thank you. Number 3?
Actually, number 5. Number 3 was already acted on.
All right, number 5. John Walsh, Matt Dowd. Number 5.
John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org, co-blogging with Mickey. I would like to say that the first time I visited the Hollywood Walk of Fame was 1966, when I was at UCLA for the summer, and then I've been living there since 76. At this point, the Hollywood Walk of Fame is in its worst disrepair ever. Go to the Willard Waterman sign, the Willard Waterman star on Vine Street. It's torn apart. 4 years ago, there was a picture in the LA Times of the Willard Waterman star. Nothing is fixed. The Hollywood Historic Trust needs to be investigated by Attorney General Jerry Brown. He's too busy, his budget has been cut, and he's running for mayor. HollywoodHighlands.org. And incidentally, was that the mayor and Lou at the Diamond Market the other day pricing things? Bye. 1 minute.
Mr. Dowd.
All right, thank you. Yes, the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and this is going to be one of the things in my lawsuit on the public comment when I'm denied speaking. So here today, thank you for acknowledging the public comment on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And once you've had the public comment, then we can approve these stars. But I think it's oversubscribed already now, the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's getting too big, too many no-names on there. Save some space for me. You know what, I'm going to go, I need to go up there and cover up the Bruce Willis star and the Cameron Diaz star, because they were the two where the Brown Act was violated and you didn't have the public comment before you approved. I already put it up on the website, online, so just search Cameron Diaz and you can find where I disapprove of her installation. I think I might go put a cover over it and put my phone number and everything. You can call me and find
Thank you,
out.
Mr. Dowd. That matter is now before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Let's take up number 18. Ms. Hahn, number 18.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, item 18 is the City Council. What we're doing today, well, the City of Los Angeles, we're actually accepting a very generous donation from the Grand Vision Foundation in the Harbor area. This was the foundation that actually was formed in 1995 to save the historic Warner Grand Theater in San Pedro. And for you history buffs, in 1931, the Warner Grand was built and is the only one of 3 Warner Brothers theaters, Art Deco theaters in Los Angeles would still be intact and actually functioning. It was slated to be sold for another use, and this foundation formed and persuaded then Council Member Rudy Savornich and the city to find the money to purchase the theater. And it was one of the greatest moments, really, in the history of Los Angeles and for our theaters to actually preserve that theater. It is now a working theater, but as you can imagine, it needs a lot of work and repairs. It's absolutely beautiful. If you've never seen it in downtown San Pedro, you should take the opportunity to see it. But the ceiling was beginning to crack and needed a lot of work, at least $50,000 worth of work. And I don't have to tell you all that it's hard to find those kinds of funds today within our Cultural Affairs Department to find that. So this foundation raised this money and has been able to find the work to be done. And what we're doing is accepting their kind, generous donation to fix the ceiling in the Warner Grand Theater. So I just wanted to bring this to our attention that there are wonderful groups out there who on a daily basis are supporting our buildings, our facilities, our cultural, our art, and actually raising the money to help the city in tough times preserve some of the treasures that we have. So thanks to Liz Schindler Johnson and all those at the Grand Vision Foundation for raising this money and seeing that the work will be done in an appropriate way to fix that gorgeous ceiling in the theater. So I expect us all to vote yes on accepting this generous donation. Thank you very much.
All right, that matters before us. Open the roll, accept that generous donation, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Thank you. We accepted that generous donation. Number 14.
And
Madam Clerk?
that was called special for cards.
All right, is that our last item?
Yes, it is, except for the housekeeping items.
Number 14, Mr. Walsh.
Let's go quickly through the reasonableness of these awards of money. Latin Film Festival, $1,100. Okay, I understand. It's reasonable. Pico Union Community Health Fair, $1,200. Very reasonable. Grammy Party, they're paying themselves. Fine. Now we come to two special events for a high school, which total $6,000 in Mr. Weezar's district. If you want to know more about Mr. Weezar, Los Angeles, Garment, and Citizen, he is under IRS investigation. I'm not surprised. $6,000 for a high school festivities and a parade. And then the next one, 15, fighting diabetes, $3,000 for a walk. Eminently reasonable. In Weezar's district, a high school gets $6,000. How much he gets in his pocket, I don't know. Diabetes only gets $3,000. You are continually ripping these money that is going in here. Some of it is going into the pocket of one particular councilman who's under FBI investigation. I understand that Thomas O'Brien, the former U.S. attorney, will be here in a couple of weeks to accept an award. Finish off, HollywoodHighlands.org, 40,000 people have visited since September 1st. 40,000.
Mr. Zimmerman, he's not talking about this item.
And protest.
Mr. Walsh, back on the topic, please. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you, and a good afternoon to you. Dr. Williams, thank you.
1 minute.
There you go. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno. Oh, I noticed that there are no more community impact statements. Maybe this is because the neighborhood councils are being disempowered. Annualized special events. $2 million if you just took what was and will be approved today. So $2 million, that's half of the neighborhood council budgets for the year. Why not put the special events where the communities are, the neighborhood councils, and empower them we had a meeting to empower the neighborhood councils, whereas this continually disempowers the neighborhood councils. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Matt Dowd.
Good weekend.
Matt Dowd not here. Arnold Sachs.
Thank you again. Arnold Sachs. Reimbursement to the city. Ms. Candido, if you're still in Van Nuys, this is what I'm talking about. You heard Councilman Park mention a situation at the Coliseum where there was 20 extra personnel being paid overtime to work the events. How come 2 years after people have been talking, requesting the city take action on fee event waivers, how come 20 people are allowed to work extra overtime? The city's not being reimbursed. The money comes out of the general funds. Want your streets paved? Want your trees trimmed? Want extra gas service? Sorry. Our council is so busy. Just matter of fact, today mentioned 20 extra people at the Coliseum. How many extra at LA Live? How many extra at Staples Center? How many extra at Dodger Stadium? How many extra at the Hollywood Bowl? Just matter-of-factly mentioning extra personnel, not including the police. No mention of any policy on police reimbursement. Those 6 venues, or maybe it's 7, still will get police coverage for free because it's not included in the city's new fee waiver system. So how many events on today's fee waivers will have to come up with upfront money? Will the Grammys? Will the high school walk? Will the diabetes walk? Will they all have to come up with upfront money? How long? 2 years people have been discussing fee waivers.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Matters now before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Madam Clerk, next item.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion referred.
There's an excuse on this. Councilmember Ruiz, our request to be excused October 21st and 23rd for city business. The motion is required.
Motion approved. Mr. Rosendahl.
And that clears the desk.
Any announcements? Colleagues, announcements? Mr. Parks?
After prior approval of Janice Hahn, I can give this announcement today that everyone is invited to the grand opening of the Soberoff Sports Field at Expo Center, Saturday the 17th, 10 a.m. at 3980 South Menlo Avenue. This is a brand new soccer field on one of the parking lots on synthetic turf, and they'll open it up this week as well. It's being used today, but they're going to open it officially this weekend, and we'd invite everyone out. There's going to be swimming, sports, all kinds of games, activities, and it's a great enhancement to the community.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Parks. Any other announcements, colleagues? Adjourning motions. Everyone please stand for adjourning motions. Ms. Hahn, adjourning motion.
Thank you, colleagues. I'd like us to adjourn today in the memory of Bob Beverly, who just passed away. He was 84 years old. Bob was one of the South Bay's longest-serving state legislators, serving for almost 30 years. He was a Republican, but he was really respected by his colleagues. That didn't really come out right.
No, it didn't.
That did not come out. Let me rephrase that. He was a Republican, and he was respected by his colleagues across the political spectrum. He was born in Massachusetts, but he moved to Manhattan Beach in the 50s, and that's where he began his political career. He served 3 terms as mayor of Manhattan Beach before he got elected to the State Assembly in 1967, representing the 49th District. After 9 years in that role, Bob was elected to the State Senate, District 27, which later got redistricted, and then he was unfortunately termed out in 1996. He had a long tenure in public service, but one of the things he was known for, and he actually worked with my dad, then County Supervisor Kenny Hahn, and he authored a bill that became law, and it was called Rob a Home, Go to Jail. So anyone prosecuted and convicted of a home invasion, robbery, or burglary would automatically go to jail. This, I think, led to a lot of people really feeling like they were at least more protected and had some recourse when their homes got robbed. He authored groundbreaking consumer protection legislation, which led to the ability to form limited liability companies. On the local level, he secured $2 million to restore the great Manhattan Beach Pier, and another $2 million to mitigate the Portuguese Bend landslide area in Rancho Palos Verdes. He was a genuine public servant who cared about people and loved what he did, and he really worked to solve people's problems and get things done. He, and some of you who have gone to the state legislature, you would probably sympathize with what Bob said was really problematic, was the partisanship sometimes that seemed to get in the way of really solving the problems for Californians, and he never seemed to get used to that or like it. He said, "I prefer less partisanship, less moving to the right." And then this quote was his, which I liked. "What do they say about us moderates? We like the front of the bus, the back of the church, and the middle of the road." Bob is survived by his wife of nearly 60 years, Betty Lou, his high school sweetheart. He's also served by 3 sons. I know his son Bill, also Bob Jr. and Brian, a daughter Barbara, 10 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. A public memorial service will be held tomorrow, 10 a.m. October 24th at American Martyrs Catholic Church in Manhattan Beach. Rest in peace, Bob Beverly. You were a great public servant.
All members on that adjourning motion? Any other adjourning motions? I have one on behalf of Councilmember Garcetti. Jamin Amato passed away October 14th after a 2-year fight with cancer. Previous intern in the City Hall office of Council President Garcetti. Jamin was tenacious, talented athlete, person with a great smile and attitude, very popular young man, and a great success on the field as a soccer player on elite club teams at Poly High and later Boston College, where he played for 4 outstanding seasons before graduating in 2007. Survived by his parents, John and Tess, sisters Ashley and Mary. May he rest in peace. Jamin Amato. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please. Mr. Koretz?
Oh, I just wanted to say something about Bob Beverly. He was such a bipartisan legislator. As those of us who have served in the legislature more recently know, you literally wouldn't even be allowed to function as someone working as closely with both parties today. It would be literally impossible. So whatever frustrations he found about the partisanship then would have been much tougher for him now. But he set an example which I hope someday we can return to in our houses of the state legislature.
Mr. Rosendahl?
Mr. Koretz said. He's come on my show. He was one of those real positive spirits that made the democracy work. I was always impressed with how he handled himself, and he was a bridge builder to make things happen. I appreciate, Mr. Koretz, your comment as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please. This meeting is adjourned. We will resume council session next Tuesday. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. From the Los Angeles City Council, good afternoon.